All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here, and welcome to podcast number 203. It's crazy that, we've done so many episodes, but today's today's podcast guest is none other than Bearclaw. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right.
Yeah. I know we've been wanting to do this for a while. Like, you throw things back and forth between each other, and you're like, all right, let's do it. My people talk to your people, then like stuff never happens. But yeah, we finally got you here, man. How you doing?
I don't know. I'm doing all right, but fun highlight of today is I replaced my dirty old mouse pad with a new one, and it's pretty nice. It's a very gigantic thingy majig. I can't show it on camera because it's a mess to get up.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is that like the old Corsair one? Was that the one that was that?
Yeah, it's an old
Yeah, I
Corsair
recognized
thing.
it. Yeah, I think I almost bought one of those. Yeah. So, anyways, guys, this is Bearclaw. Obviously, streams over on Twitch, and we'll, of course, we already have a shout out, but throughout the podcast, I'm sure we can get some more. I'm sure you've seen his face. A little less hair, man. You're letting it go out, man. Is it because of lack of barber? What's going on with it?
Yeah, just lack of barber. Just fucking, It's everywhere. Look at this.
Yeah, it's getting there. Do you have you ever cut your hair yourself?
The last time I did, it ended in disaster. So I was just kind of.
You just buzz it.
Yeah. It's funny. Like the back of my head, it was basically like down to the skin, and then there was hair on the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice that I had like cut all of it off, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started doing my own hair. Funny enough, I think I started learning when I was in the military, but then like afterwards, and it was like it would have been such a good skill to have when I was in. But yeah, like I do a pretty good fade on the sides, but I've learned not to go like if you just use the regular like scissors, you don't go down to like just the bare 0. That's what we call it. I usually do like a number 2 on the sides and then whatever length on top. But like last time I did it, I was like, I don't even want to worry about it. I'm just buzzing it all off, and everybody was like, all right, that's cool, Phil. And I'm like, well, it's freaking hot, so whatever. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. So anyways, so I've wanted to talk to you a while about a few things in like MWO, and I was talking about this in Twitch chat, and so I thought it'd be great to like have you on. So it's a little bit of a spur of a moment thing, but yeah, Bald Hobbit. So first off, how long have you been streaming?
Me, it's been a little over 5 years.
Yeah.
I started, I think, well, if it's 2020 right now, it's like 2015, July 18th of 2015. So the 5-year anniversary just happened a little while ago.
Yeah. What got you into streaming?
I don't really know. It was just kind of like somebody mentioned Twitch, and I was like, hey, what's that? And I just I stumbled down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. What was
That was kind of interesting.
Was MWO like your first game you streamed, or did you start streaming before that?
I think MWO was the first, because I think just before I had started streaming, I had built one of my first rigs, right? And I was like, oh man, I get to play this game called Mechwarrior Online. And I had been watching you for a while, actually, prior to that, under a different username. And yeah, it was interesting. So, that snowball started to roll down the hill.
Yeah.
And here I am today.
I was gonna say, so how did you discover MWO? Did you know someone that was playing it, or like how the heck do you
the way I discovered it was prior to that, I had been handed down like this dirty old laptop, right? It was like an Inspiron 15 from like 2012, and all I was doing was playing, Mech Commander, Mechwarrior 4, Mechwarrior 3, and I got hooked on that. Some days I wouldn't play with my friends on Xbox Live anymore. I would just sit there with this dinky old computer and try and get these games to work. And I think Mechwarrior 4 was I think I picked that up 2010. It was still in development with MechTech, so I was I was with that. It was interesting. I got to play a few multiplayer games, and then things happened, and they switched to, what was it? They went to Heavy Gear, didn't they?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a story a lot of people don't know. They didn't go to heavy gear right off the bat, so a little bit of a history lesson here from Hobbit Phil. They actually were at GDC when PGI was at GDC for the first year. The reason I know
Oh,
this is because Darren was there, and I was super jealous because Darren lived in near San Francisco, so they went, and obviously because we had good relationships, he was able to get a behind the scenes, like go in their booth. He couldn't talk about it, but he was like, oh my god, right? We had that really, it was a great podcast but horrible because he did the podcast there in like GDC, and so it was fucking super loud. He was having like, anyways.
oh
But
no.
funny enough, MechTech was there because MechTech had been developing what was called Solaris Assault Tech, and you guys can Google the shit. Google Solaris Assault Tech. And so let's just say they showed up with basically a Battletech IP or Mechware IP basically game, PvP, and then the official license holders show up to showcase Mechwarrior Online. And let's just say Solaris Assault Tech didn't go anywhere. And next thing you know, they were doing heavy gear, right? So
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was, I think from, I don't know if there was a cease and desist, but I wouldn't be surprised because they didn't have the license to do so. I think what happened was they had a written, basically permission to the effect from Microsoft to distribute Mech 4 and continue doing their mod stuff, and they took that as like, you know,
Oh,
and I don't know if they knew about. I mean, they had to have known about because we knew about it. Everybody was talking about it at the time with Mechwarrior Online. Like everyone knew. Yeah. So like, I don't know. And then they went to Heavy Gear and they tried to do their kickst. Did they do the kick? I think they tried a Kickstarter or they did a crowdfunding and it just totally tanked. And yeah. Anyways. Yeah. Yeah. But apparently they're diving back into Mech Tech as far as Mech 4 stuff. Have you heard about that?
oh yeah. Actually, I joined one of their discords, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, something in December.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
they're resuming. I don't know exactly, but they've been kind of tongue in cheek with it. But
Yeah.
so like Mech Pack 4 is kind of coming out in
Yeah.
December, as far as I know. But don't quote me on that.
Like I guess to go off on a tangent here, I why not just get involved? I mean, they already knew Unreal. Like that was what they were working in. Why not just would it just be because their pride and they didn't want to like why don't they just create Mech 5 stuff, mod stuff? If they knew that much as like you know what I'm saying? And they're just working on mods anyways, why not work with something that actual I don't know. I mean, do people a lot of people still play Mech 4? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. Am I wrong?
There are a few servers, but usually they're full of bots. So
Oh. Yeah.
sometimes you get like one or two people playing at the same time.
I don't know.
But as
Yeah.
far as I know, it's just kind of a ghost town.
Yeah. Did you ever play Heavy Gear, the
No,
originals? Oh, really?
I think I ran into an arcade machine when I was like 8, and I remember seeing like this big machine on the cover of the arcade machine, and then I ran away. It was kind of
Yeah.
funny.
So Heavy Gear, where that came from was Activision had done MechWarrior 2, and basically, long story short, when I think it was Mech 3, anyways, when they lost because they were a publisher, when they lost the license, they wanted to basically run off the coattails of success, and they basically created Heavy Gear. And it was I don't know if they created it, but they definitely they were the publishers behind the game, and it was good, and there was bad things. It was definitely like a spin-off of Mech Warrior in the case, a little bit different. Like it was almost like mixtures of Armored Core esque, where mechs could slide almost like that's how they would travel. They would almost like rollerblades, like powered rollerblades almost, and but
Right.
then you'd have yeah, it was interesting. I remember I played the first one. I didn't play the second one, but it had a good story, good cinematics. Yeah, it was good, but it definitely wasn't MechWarrior. But yeah. So as far as I know, I don't think Heavy Gear, the latest, I don't think it went anywhere. I think it's dead in the water, which is unfortunate. I have no malice towards those guys. But we did, like, I'll be public. They were, we didn't have good relationships with them at the end because when we first started the podcast, we were going everywhere and posting like like it's one of the things we'll talk about later is like people discovering you, like, and so we'd go to mech tech forums because at the time, like, that was like the go-to facto for BattleTech stuff. Like, there wasn't
Right.
MWO didn't have forums yet. I mean, Mech Commander used to have a forums, and then that disappeared. So like, it was the de facto forums, and I don't know if like they wanted us. It was something shade. It was just one of those things where they felt like they owed us. We owed them because they had us on their front page and like, would post up like, "Hey, No Guts, No Galaxy podcast," blah 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 blah.
Oh.
And it was one of those where like me and Darren were like, we're putting in a corner, and it was like, whoa, like, that's not cool, man. Like, and so I haven't talked to him in a while, but all I know is I don't think they had good relations, or at least feelings towards like PGI after all of that and stuff. But I mean, that sucks, but it's like, hey, you need to know don't get mad because you messed up and, you didn't know what you actually had or didn't have or whatever. I don't know. But needless to say, that's here nor there. So what gets you, like, okay, so you played Mech Commander.
Mm-hmm.
Did someone get you into that? Like, because Mech Commander Mech Commander came out when you were like, how old?
Mech Commander, I don't even think I was.
It was 2000, 99, 2000?
Yeah, I was born in 98. So,
Oh my
here's the story.
God.
Here's the story.
Ah!
Okay.
I'm so old.
Let's do it this way.
Okay.
I think. Okay, so Mech Assault, right, on the Xbox.
Yes.
That was my first exposure to
Okay.
BattleTech. That's where I came from.
Okay.
Mech Assault 1, Mech Assault 2, and then when the Xbox finally died, right? Xbox Live went down, all that stuff disappeared. I was like, man, nothing is scratching this itch anymore. So I started Googling. I was like, Mechwarrior, Mech Assault, something BattleTech, and lo and behold, Mech Tech showed up, and then I was like, oh man, there's got to be more. And Mechwarrior 3, Mechwarrior 2, Mech Commander showed up. And yeah, that's the story of how I got into.
Did you play Mech Commander 1 or 2 or both?
I played both.
Okay. Serious question. Which one do you like more?
I would say it's a mixed question. I mean, it's a mixed answer because I like the graphics of 2, and then I like the story of 1. And one of my dreams, I guess, was to have like Mech Commander 1 with Mech 2 mechanics. I know that may rub you the wrong way.
No, it's all right. No, that's cool, man. Like, what's funny? So Mech Assault, I don't think people realize, because did that come with your Xbox?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of the release titles for it.
Yeah.
Like
So
Halo and some other ones.
I think it got a lot of people. I mean, great marketing and strategy. Now that you've dove into Mechwarrior and BattleTech, and you've obviously Mechwarrior Online, I don't know if you played Mech 5, we'll get into that, but like, knowing what you know now about BattleTech, would you agree that like there are a lot of things that I think they did really well in that game in Mech Assault? Like,
oh yeah, like it was so accessible. You could pick it up right away and play for a couple of hours, then put it down and pick up where you left off. There was no real like, it was simple.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the wheel, it just worked. It rolled down the hill.
Yeah. I love the animations of it, and it didn't bother me that, it was like you could 360 torso and the legs or whatever. It's funny because like getting into the mod scene and looking at that, you almost go down the road of simplification doesn't mean that's a bad thing. And if anything, it could mean it gets rid of unnecessary stuff that may be left over from like tabletop. Because like we were talking about this today on stream, like tabletop, unfortunately, us BattleTech fans were our own worst nightmare because like you expect it to be tabletop, but it's tabletop. It's not like when you bring it to a real world 3D environment, you have to change. Like you have to adapt rules and like same thing with like hit locations. I think Mech Assault works 100% fine with it's just the mech and HP. Like it makes sense. Like, like.
Yeah, that was it. You just had to hit the hitbox and the health went down.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I'd like to think that like Mech Assault did something really, really well. It was like you could sort of upgrade your mech, right? When you picked up the power ups and you ran
Yeah.
around and your lasers turned different colors. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked that mechanic. It was like, certain parts of the map were very important because they gave you a certain resource.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you play PvP at all, or?
Oh yeah, I played
Yeah.
PvP.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Mech Assault 2 PvP was kind of weird because you didn't get to really pick anything, right? It was just like the maps came with a set of mechs, and you had to get into the mech from like the little guy into the mech, or you ran around in battle armor, or you ran around in a VTOL, dropping resources for your teammates.
Yeah.
But in Mech Assault 1, all you had was, team deathmatch, skirmish, capture the flag, and you had to pick a mech before you got into the match. And so that was a big change. But
Gotcha.
I really dig Mech Assault 1's kind of, you pick your mech and you go and play with it, and then that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, I just totally had a brain fart. Had to do with Mech Assault. Um, oh, that's what happens when you get old, Bear. You'll be there one
Oh,
day. I know.
don't worry, hairline's already receding. Get
Yeah,
there.
no, no. Okay, so uh, out of Mech Commander, it's funny because you said the storyline is very linear. I mean, I've played that so many times. It's funny enough, I went back to look on YouTube, and like I did a playthrough, like a hardcore like playthrough where you like if you lost a mech or lost pilot, you couldn't restart or whatever. And
Right.
just like one episode had like 44,000 views. I was like, what in the world? Like, so obviously there's definitely, if someone is watching that many times and enjoying, and obviously with our mod, um, I just feel like how important story is. And did you get into Mech 5 yet? I don't know if you did or didn't.
Uh, I did. I
Okay.
played it from beginning to end, and then I uninstalled it.
Okay. So you uninstalled. So let's talk about maybe the story. Like, what was your overall impression of Mech 5?
Mech 5, my first impression was like, yeah, this game needs more time. This game, like, give it another year, and maybe, because holy shit. I'm not gonna name names. I'm not gonna say anything bad about it, but my God, I'm just, yeah, there were some things that, were not very, let's just say, were not very developed yet.
Okay. I mean,
Those are
story.
safer terms.
Yes. I mean, storyline. So you played it, you went through, you uninstalled it. Did you enjoy the co-op at all? Did you try that?
Actually, the last few missions, I gotta say, the last few missions were pretty cool because, they were like, it was a combination of objectives, right? It wasn't just like, oh, go to this planet, destroy that. No, it was like, go to this planet, destroy this, capture that. And that was the really interesting part, was,
Yeah.
I think the last three levels where I guess, spoilers, where you pick up the Night Star and you fight the Comstar dude. Like,
Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah.
Everything started ramping up, and then you fought Comstar at the end. And I was like, oh man, this is great. And then it ended.
It ended. Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
is that it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see the credits roll, no teaser, nothing. And I
Yeah.
was so sad. I was like,
So
man.
in comparison, why do you think you like, because it wasn't quite a linear. I mean, I guess. Well, I mean, I
It's
already know the
kind of
answer.
linear.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess it's like you could do other stuff too. Like you didn't,
Mm,
you could play Mech 5 entirely and not even do like after you skipped Act 1. I don't think it forces you ever to do anything, right?
right,
Like
yeah.
so,
Just a quest.
yeah, yeah. So I already know the answer to it. So I was gonna ask, but I was like, looking at even the original Mech Commander, in my opinion, did so many things. I mean, remember, obviously farm mission, right? I use the shit
Oh
out of a
yeah.
mine layer, right?
Yep.
Or what about the train mission?
Oh,
Or
I hate the train mission. I gotta tell
right?
you, that mission sucks.
There's so many ways you can skin the cat, as they say. Because like I've done everything. I've done where you take mechs and you follow and basically the hunchbacks, and you take those out, and then you go back here. Like I've done right across the bridge across Ramos. I've taken a refit truck. I've gone all the way down south and mined the entire thing. That's what I did on my last playthrough. Like I've done so many strategies, but like here's the thing: we're talking about a game that came out in '99, and we're still fucking talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, and that And that's why, like, with our mod for our Mech Commander, and I'm gonna be doing a podcast with Tori again of like I just feel like if you're gonna go story, it doesn't take a whole lot, like the secondary or tertiary objectives and stuff like that. I think being able to like go explore, like on Mech
Right.
Commander, there was you know, I think I've pretty much done every like container or whatever, but there's always like something that's like, oh, I didn't know that was there. And
Yeah.
so like because maybe I just didn't explore it or whatever. But yeah. So you thought the graphics were good on 2 compared to, oh, man, we gotta talk, man. Like
Well, it was
pixels.
just, I don't know. I kind of dig that era, like 2000
It's so
2000
painful.
to like
But
2004. Oh, I loved that so
look
much.
at Halo though compared to like Mech 2. Like people don't realize they came out the same, and you'd be like, oh, Mech Commander 2 looks like shit compared to Halo, right? But
Oh man, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Let's yeah, I'm talking about Mech Commander again. Thanks, chat. I know I can't help it, but all right. So you started with Mech Assault. Did you have any buddies that were into Mechwarrior BattleTech at all, or did you convert
Nope.
anybody? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
It was just me. I was the only kid, while everybody else was playing like Call of Duty Black Ops or
Yeah.
Halo 2, I was the only kid just sitting there on my little tiny laptop trying to play Mech Commander 4 or Mech Warrior 4, Mech Commander. Yeah, just
Yeah.
me.
Okay. Okay. So you got into streaming about 5 years ago. You just hit your anniversary not too long ago.
Mhm.
You what got you into MWO per se? Did you see a video? You said you were watching me. How did well, I guess there would have been overlap. If you were playing on a laptop in 2010, that time frame, you would have probably seen some of the videos and hype and stuff that was coming out, right?
Yeah, and there were magazines coming out as well at
PC
the
Gamer.
time.
Yeah.
G-
Okay.
PC Gamer, Game Informer, and they'd have rumors of like, oh, look,
Yeah.
another MechWarrior game,
Yeah.
and it was like that because I had a subscription to Game Informer, and I would hear bits and pieces, and I'm like, oh man, just imagine
Cool.
a modern MechWarrior 4,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, that's how I started. I remember I had this really shitty tower at some point after I had gotten my laptop. I think I had gotten to a tower, and I remember logging in, right, getting like my email and whatever, and logging in and playing with like the trial dragon on Tourmaline. I remember I ran out from like Alpha Spawn in Delta 5, and I got obliterated, and it was
Yeah.
like 10 frames a second. But I was like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah.
And so that was the only reason that I built a computer, was like, I need to play this game. This
Yeah.
game is gonna replace Mech 4. I'll never have to play that stupid laptop again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was me.
Yeah, man. Were you in the closed beta? Did you get in that at all?
No, I was in the open beta.
Open beta? Okay. Yeah, I remember getting our ass kicked. I remember uh Russ used to be fucking good at the game. Like really
I
good at the
mean,
game. Because we had
still
never
is.
played before. No. What
Right.
I'm saying, like, it was like us, like, literally hopping in. I remember his dragon. He used to
Oh,
love his dragon, and he used to like kick our ass back in the day. Like, it was so crazy because, like, I look back at like my very first YouTube videos, and I'm just like, it was like a field of potatoes as far as you can see. Just like like from horizon to horizon, like
that's
just.
great.
But also the game was completely different too. Remember back then, like we didn't have double heat sinks, like we didn't have UX, we had like the bare bone, like we didn't have the mechs that we do now, and like the game was, and graphically, the game looked beautiful back then. I,
Oh,
I
I,
thought,
I love the LRM animations.
oh
And they
yeah,
would spin and do the.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
cool. I wish they
yeah,
had kept that.
yeah. Well, you know why they didn't with the SRMs, right? You guys, comp guys.
Oh,
Yeah, you
really?
remember that? Yeah, yeah. So what happened was and they could have just alternated. I don't know why they didn't. But SRMs and LRMs, they had the in and out,
Mhm.
and good players knew that if you're 100 meters out, it would always hit
Oh,
pinpoint.
right.
Like leave it to comp guys to like totally ruin it for everybody. Like
Right.
but
Darn comp players.
but it was just one of those things. It was like, well, why don't you just have them alternate, and then you don't have to worry about, like different, and plus the graphics looked really good back then. It was over the
Yeah.
top. Like I know it definitely hurt systems, and back then too, when it was like you didn't have dual system streams too, like back then too. Like that wasn't a thing. Like,
Right. It was
man, streaming. Yeah, and we're gonna talk
potatoes.
about streaming. Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, that's came so long since 2012. So were you so you started an open beta? So you what was your old alias in Twitch?
It was like nom nom something. I don't remember. Long story. I
I
forgot.
I didn't know. Like, were you active in chat? Did like
Yeah, I
yeah?
was in your chat for a while. I think I had been watching for at least a solid year, and
Oh
then I
man,
changed my Twitch alias to match my in-game alias, Bearclaw. Right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how you know me.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, that change was, I don't know, it's weird.
yeah. Where'd Bear
But
Claw come
anyway, I
from?
was, well, I don't know. It just showed up in one of the descriptions. It was food related. My name was food related. It just kind of popped up in the suggestion, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, so I
Wow.
picked that one.
Okay. I mean, simple is always that's not a bad thing. Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get
It's
it.
kind of rolls off the
I
tongue.
get it.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
nice and
It
simple.
does. It's simple. It's to the point. Yeah. Um, speaking of comp scene, like when did you get into that? Was it before you started streaming or?
I think it was just after I had started streaming. I had started like going into the comp player streams and watching them, and they were really good at the game. I was like, man, I bet if I asked this guy a few questions, I'd be as good as he was. And yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah.
I think my first comp unit I got was, nah, I think it was just a group of people at that point. It was like BZKR, like Berserker or some random stuff. And oh no, I remember now. It was Clan Wolf Zeta Galaxy. Yeah, it was something weird like that. And I think it was faction. Faction. We were playing faction play, and we ran into another streamer, Casual Joker,
Yeah.
and he was
Casual.
part of Clan Wolf Kappa Galaxy. And what was funny was at that time they were doing a lot of faction, right? There was role playing, like it was the funniest shit. So I think my first time in on their TeamSpeak or whatever, me and Casual Joker were in a group of faction, and then the Khan at this point, I think it was like Subwolf or someone comes in, as acting Khan of Clan Wolf and tells us, hey, go take this planet, and we're like, all right. So like our 4 or 8 man went in to try and take the planet. We lost, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was back then. It was weird because
Yeah.
Clan Wolf International was a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that was, I don't know. It's been a while, but I think my first actual comp unit was I think it was CSJX. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, dude. Comp team. I remember teams started forming up, like units started forming up when the game started, and I remember there was so big, like units that were hundreds deep, and like the amount of drama that we would hear about. Because
Oh yeah.
so this actually takes me back. We hosted the Outreach TeamSpeak 3 server, and I don't know if you were ever on there, but like you could have as what you do is you hop on. Oh, you got a unit. We'd create a room. We'd give you tags. You can create as many like we had. It was stupid. Like it was always like full. We upgraded a few times. It was a really cool thing, but like the amount of just people back then, like it's so funny. I totally forget. Like we actually had like one of, because we were sick and tired of like, oh well, like hop on our team speak, and then oh well, hop on our team speak, and it was like, how about we
Yep.
just have one
Just all
fucking
the Discord
thing? Like
hopping.
yeah, like now Discord, yeah, Discord's awesome, right? You don't have to took it to the next level, but okay, so you got involved faction warfare. I feel like faction warfare obviously missed the mark on a lot of things, but I think it's interesting because it does play into the part of like the role play where if you have the right setup of almost someone doing like what you did, whereas like your leader or whoever could be like, hey, I need you guys to go bog down some people over on this planet while we're going to
Mhm.
swing over here and hit this with force. And so while you're in matches, we're going to go like do this. And that's sort of like how I think it really ultimately could have been. But did you play faction warfare quite a bit? Like as far as it was like, man,
Uh, I think at the beginning, right
at the
near
beginning?
like Tukayid and
Yeah.
stuff
Okay.
like that. Yeah, I think I was. in with all of the Tukey events. So like when Jaeger streamed it and other people streamed it,
Jaeger.
stuff like that.
I miss
Miss that
Jaeger.
guy.
I miss him. He was
Yep.
such a good dude.
He's actually around, believe it
Yeah.
or not. I think he plays Hunt now, so
Yeah. I'm gonna have to hit him up.
go and bug him. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think, like, I used to text him. I'd be like, hey, dude. He, funny enough, he helped me out with quirks. Him, Siri. A lot of those people don't know that too early on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They used to give feedback. God, Siri, that guy.
Yeah, we can. I don't know. Long conversation on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when did you get into like I guess the competitive side matches, and like, what was it like back then for you? Cause I can tell you what it was like. Cause were you around for the, GG close and all the lords and all that, or were you after that?
I think
Or during, was that during?
it was during, but I was
Yeah.
like I was a potato, right? I
Yeah,
was no
yeah.
one. Just
Yeah.
I was around, but I had no idea this was happening. So
Yeah.
I'm off in
Yeah.
potato land. I didn't know any of the comp guys like
Yeah.
lords and EMP. That was a foreign idea to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as time went on, like I joined CSJ, and those people there, some of them fought like those guys, and there was drama. Lords, CSJ, EMP, big mess. But regardless, it's like it slowly started to dawn on me like who these guys were, and I started to peel the onion back. That was really interesting. I think I missed most of the drama at the beginning with like Lords, CSJ, and EMP. Like all that drama kind of flew over my head in that sense.
Yeah. So you were just like immersed in I'm just absorbing all of the information coming in, all the other stuff was just, yeah.
Like, I think at that point I had maybe 2 or 3 clan mechs, and I was just having a great time.
God, clans back then too. Okay, yeah.
I think I didn't even buy any of the clan mechs. So what I would do was like I would play on my friend's computer because he had a better hardware at that point, and all I would do was I would like sell all of my mechs and then buy like the newest clan mech that would come out. So say if it were the Adder or the Kit Fox, I would sell all like my onions, my stalkers. I would sell them and then buy the Seville variant, right? And play with that for a little bit, then sell that. Grind some Sevilles and then buy the Adder. Yeah. And then I think it was the Nova. I bought the Nova, and then I bought the Stormcrow, then I bought the Summoner, the Timberwolf. I think I kept the Timberwolf. And then I got to the Assault Max. Yeah, that was me.
Did you have any previous experience in any other games playing competitively?
No. This was my first competitive game.
Yeah. And how old were you when you started this?
Oh, man.
You were young, right? Like 17, maybe?
Yeah, 17 I got into comp. 15 I started playing.
Yeah, so. That's okay. That sounds about right. Yeah, I knew you as the young kid. Okay.
Yes.
Oh man, that's something we can talk about in a bit. Yeah. So okay, so you get involved. What drew you to like playing? Like what was it about the PvP scene at the time? And in particular, when I say PvP, like the comp scene, what attracted you?
I think at that point, I just wanted to get really good at the game because, there was always someone above you, right? And I think the goal at that point was like to be the best, right? I think I still have that written on my forum profile somewhere. It was weird. But yeah, teenager, angst, all that, and just, so.
Well, I mean, being good.
Be the best and
getting
good.
I get it.
But, with all of that, it comes at a price. There's certainly an attitude change. There's an association change. Like people know you by the tag instead of you, right? And it gets weird, and that's why like you kind of have to be careful with that because eventually you just become the tag, and any behavior associated with that tag, well, hey, guess what? Yeah, somebody's being an asshole. You're an asshole now.
Yeah. Or even if you adopt that sort of thing too, then you become possibly what you didn't want to become. Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
It's kind of scary thinking about it now because like back then, when I was a teenager, I was easily influenced. Somebody comes in, they're like, "Oh man, I'm upset," and then I'm like, I'm on their side all of a sudden, right?
Like, yeah, fuck those guys, or yeah, fuck that.
Yeah,
You know, that
yeah.
game,
There's sort of that
that
mob
change is
mentality.
stupid. Yeah, yeah. But and instead of you maybe having the critical, um, having your own opinion and like critical
Yeah, it was
thought of
just
why would you feel that way, or do you feel it was just, and I've been there 100%. Yeah.
it's just an instant bias, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're associated with someone and the higher ups don't particularly like what's happening, then it kind of
Yeah.
trickles down, right? It's not
How was,
necessarily directly involved.
yeah. So obviously you jump into the comp scene. Like, at what point did you feel like, yeah, I'm obviously, because there's always ego involved, but like, when did you feel, and what unit were you with when you guys were like competing and you could be like, yeah, I, on a good, we're on an even playing field against other teams?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't think I ever really felt that way, honestly, because I mean, any unit, right? You'd go up against another one. At the time, they were all kind of even, right?
Okay.
And in a sense, it was kind of like, okay, if we perform our strategy well and they make mistakes and we take advantage of that, then we
Uh,
win. But if we make mistakes and
yeah.
we're not on
Yeah.
our game, then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
then we lose, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
And that's even at the top, like even at the world champs, when it's like, that's all it is. It's basically
Yep.
who capitalizes the best on mistakes, and then yeah, and who's able to recover sometimes from that, or can you, and it snowballs, and a game of attrition is like, it's so funny like watching the competitive scenes too in matches. It's so different from all other, like, to the extent of, because it's a game of attrition, you have armor and structure, and then like sometimes RNG, whereas where like it's very rare that you have like one shot takes out a mech, but it does happen. And when it does happen, it's like, oh shit, like, because
Yeah, it's
that,
like, oh no.
yeah, like, oh no, like that's bad. Like, oh, there goes there, light at the time, the Jenner or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay, that's not good. But, uh, yeah, okay. So, like I always felt like during that time frame too, and I've spoken about this, and it's funny because someone mentioned this in Twitch chat. Um, at that time frame, I think the reason people got triggered by a lot of the shenanigans, what was going back on that, is that it was toxic, and it wasn't competitive. Like, it wasn't like Lords was always just talking like shit to, let's just, whoever, another team.
It wasn't like inter-unit, right?
No, it was against anybody, like in pug
Yep.
matches and everything. And what I think that did is that create, instead of fostering a like a competitive scene, or a scene of like, hey, how do I say that? It just fostered a very toxic relationship between
Yep.
comp players and regular uh, pug players. And I don't think that's anyone's particular fault. And even with Lord and the antics and stuff like that, but looking at it from when I was doing it, I was very dismayed, and I felt like the comp scene and the teams were the only ones that could have curbed that behavior. And it was unfortunate too, because that was during the times of like IGP and decisions and stuff, and they were unhappy with like PGI, and like the PGI or the comp scene didn't have. Remember too, is like back, you didn't have lobbies, right? So you had to like try to practice and get your matches in through, like, it was just a pain in the ass. And I remember like having podcast with Russ and like being like, guys, it's coming, it's not that they're ignoring you. And like, of course, from the comp scene is like, they're fucking ignoring us, brah, like, just, and it was just one of those things where what I saw in the last 3 world championships was fantastic. And if that attitude would have been shown 5-6 years ago, I honestly think we'd have had a MechCon this year, and we'd have had a world championship this year. And I think you'd have more people still involved, because I felt like the comp scene could have been a lot stronger if we didn't have those type of antics going on. And I know some people are like, oh, you shouldn't be offended by stuff on the internet. I'm not saying like everyone's got to like be a flower, and you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I feel like if you're really trying to grow, they were being destructive, not growing. They weren't laying bricks of foundation and mortar and building this thing that's solid and can withstand You know, it was
Hmm.
that's and proof is in the pudding. You know, like proof is in what happened, what positive, what good happened out of all that. None. And you know, that's what a lot of people and it's funny because I did see some of the guys change and their behavior change. And again, I've never had Heimdallite on the podcast, but I saw a change in him because when he came in, he was a little bit younger, and by the time he was leaving, he didn't, at least in when I interacted with him, he didn't have that like chip on his shoulder and like, you know, and I don't know if that was true or not, but like, I don't know. It's one of those things where, um,
Well, I
I
think it's a lot of ego, right?
yeah,
Like, there's a lot of ego back then. You know, a lot of the guys you see now were a lot younger, right? Some of them were teenagers, like me, a few others.
you were in the middle of
And
all of that, some of that drama, like, and going back and forth with people. I know.
yeah, let's just say I was on the outside looking in for a little bit. Then, you know, I got sucked into that toilet bowl. It's bad. But anyway, like I think it's got a lot to do with ego, right? It's
Sure.
like, okay, we know we're good. Now we can talk shit to everyone,
Yeah.
right? It's like no one can touch us,
Yeah.
basically. And that sort of mentality grew, and it kept growing, and more people kept adopting it because they started to realize, oh yeah, I'm good at this game now, and you know, I have a reputation sort of idea, and it's like, ooh, how many cool kid points can I gain from, you know, trash talking these guys or trash talking the developers or
Yeah.
saying something rude in chat? You know, who can I make laugh? Who can I, you know, get along with by
Yeah.
doing these
Popularity
drains or
contest,
toxic things? Yeah,
sort of.
popularity contest, ego,
Yeah.
and
It's
it's
like being
just,
that kid in the class where you gotta act out to try to.
yep,
Yeah.
got all the new toys, and now you have the attitude to match it, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
looking back at it, it was a mess,
Yeah.
and that's the truth. I mean, there's really no way to cover it up or sugarcoat it. It's just like the people back then, just all ego.
Yeah. And well, we
You know, we
definitely.
got older.
Yeah.
Now
So yeah.
there's no ego.
Well, and we had groups that were out there. I mean, because we did have like 4chan back in the day, and like goons tried to come in and like take over, and their influence in people and creating dissent. And to
Yep.
be honest, IGP definitely didn't handle that, and PGI didn't handle. And I know me and Darren back then, that's actually one thing I've talked open about. It's funny because like sometimes it gets brought up. Like, oh, so and so, and they bring up my past. I'm like, yeah, I fucked up a lot. You know, like if you were to look at us, me and Darren being community managers to some extent, which we were to some extent, we were like, that's what it was. Yeah, we made a lot of mistakes because I think what it sucks is when we're fans first, and then like you're so passionate about something, so you give a shit, and then like someone's tearing it down and like white knighting you and blah blah blah, and just like nothing. Oh well, you get paid by him, so your fucking opinion doesn't matter, and blah blah blah, blah, right? And so yeah, it was tough because like anything you said was construed as, well, you're just fucking defending PGI, like that's your job, you know, like shut the fuck up, like your opinion doesn't matter. And man, you know, like I said, and then you try to have a conversation, and there was no conversation to be had.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen some of those forum posts, and it's just it's a long line of just like,
Oh
oh, me, fill this
yeah.
PGI that, and it's just
Yeah.
it almost seems like whatever you throw at them, no matter how juicy the bone is, they're just like, no, it's PGI, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
they just throw it away.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like
I mean,
you could give them $1 million and
yeah.
just they'd still be like, oh no, PGI, throw the money
Yeah.
away, you know,
I
or burn it or something.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is like people just like it happens in all games. Like anything you think Mechwarrior Online's ever suffered from, every fucking game like every
Yep.
like matchmaker is one of the biggest. Any like go to oh my gosh, any other game. And that's one thing too, is like if some of us are so guilty of this, of when you spend thousands of hours playing one game and you
Yep.
become masters of that, you don't realize like, yeah, dude, like Call of Duty or whatever, you know, blah 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 has the same, you know, but yeah, I think the comp scene could have been a lot bigger. I think one of the drawbacks to it was viewability, like understanding what was going on. And one of the really cool things I feel like Bandit and MDM and like Ash and some of the Forgive me, I know there's a few others out there, but like they did the best they could, and they came up with some pretty cool systems of, you know, like the picture in picture and breaking down, and they knew the nuances of what was going on. And uh, you know, you could always argue, I don't think the game was ever supposed to be esports like from the start. um
It tried, definitely
it
tried.
it try I mean people made money doing it and pay and playing, but it's one of those where it's like the grand scheme I think was just community. I really think if you break it down to it, it should have just been a community focus, and this was just sort of the cherry on top, if you will. And you know, the yeah. So um how many times have you been called a cheater or a hacker in game?
Cheater? Probably no more than a dozen.
Yeah.
I've caught a few cheaters on stream. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a guy. I don't know if I'm allowed to name them by
No,
name,
no,
but
no names, no names. I don't want you to.
yeah, there was a guy that he was in an Ebonjag with PPCs, and you saw his crosshair just track this Kintaro at 1100 meters, and you just saw the crosshair
Yeah.
on the mech, and then he shot, and I was like, oh no, this
Yeah.
guy's
Report.
like, I clipped it and sent it to Paul, and he was like, yep, I banned him. And that was it.
Yeah. They it's funny how many times I've seen, actually I just had one recently. Someone was like, way to God, what was it? It was something in game. And I was like, dude, that's not how that works. Do you even know like how cheating or hack? Because it's not even cheating, or it's cheating, but it's not hacking. You can't hack a server side. What you can do is they have what's um, it basically snags information, so you can read, like you can know their position, you can know where to aim, you can know where people potentially are, but you can't alter that information. You can't give yourself 3000 HP on the CT. So if you're out there thinking this is true, you're 100% wrong, and now you've been educated. So if you continue thinking about like that, well,
Yeah.
yeah, about that. Server side authentication doesn't allow for any of that, so rethink your accusations. Oh, beer. So speaking of beer, um, MetCon a few years ago,
It was
you
vodka and
vodka.
rum and coke. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was your first drinking experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've never drank since.
Yeah.
I woke up, right? I woke up in the hotel room after I went to sleep. And guess what happened? I started sweating in my sleep, right?
Yeah.
And I woke up and I looked. There was an imprint of my body in sweat on the bed. I was like, maybe we don't do this again.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah,
By the
no thanks.
way, full disclosure, I was not involved in any of this.
No, it was
We,
all.
well, it was pretty cool. We went out to, it's funny enough, we ran into uh it was after, was it, I forget what day it was, but PGI was there, but then we went to the same restaurant bar that HPS was at, but there's some of them were leaving, but some of them stayed. So we had like Mitch stayed for a bit and Jordan stayed for a bit. So we got pictures, and then you were there, and it was, anyways, we're all just
Yeah, there
standing
were
around.
pictures of me floating
Yeah,
around.
we're having some fun, and then I heard that I heard that you missed your flight.
Yep, missed my flight
Um,
because I got drunk
you
and
were
woke up in a pool of sweat. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and that so here you are, an American citizen. You missed your flight. You're obviously young. You don't have a ton of money, and you just missed your flight, and you're in Vancouver. And anyways, Russ made sure you got home safe, so that was good. Again,
Yes. Had to go
any
back to the PGI offices, ring the doorbell. Hey, can I email somebody? He's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And the funniest thing, we're sitting in that area, right, with the fishbowl and the skull or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's like, so do you play this game, right? He asks me that question, and I'm like, yeah, I'm Bear Claw. And he's like, what? He gets all weird with his face, and he's like, you're Bear Claw? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And yeah, that was an experience.
He wasn't expecting this. Like, I don't know, how old were you at the time? Like 20 and
I
whatever.
was 19.
19-year-old little black
Yep.
kid, just like, oh, you're Bear Claw? Like that was his face. I think I can just see it right
Yep.
now. Yeah. Just like,
And I think there was it was me, Russ, his brother, and I forget the other guy's name, but they were all talking about developing the game, their experiences with it. It's kind of funny.
yeah, yeah.
An
His
interesting
brother,
conversation.
it was probably Rick. Was he a little bit stocky, chunkier guy? Anyways, it's probably Rick. And then his brother is really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny because like Russ is like, well, no offense, but he's like the chunkier version
Yeah.
of his
He
brother. Like he's
is,
just
yeah, it is. It's like the skinny version. It's like, Russ, you could look like your brother if you, man.
yeah.
I was like, Russ, come on, man, we need it to work out, man. Like we can do it. And he's like, yeah, I don't know about. All I know is don't try to keep up drinking with Russ. I know that you will not win, especially people our size. It just doesn't.
No, we're
Just
short, body
it doesn't.
weight, fat distribution.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. Yeah, so that was a good time. How was your time? I mean, like, I don't know you on a like a super personal level, so I don't know if like you get out like and I don't know. We were going to talk about some stuff with streamers, but like there are some streamers that have like social anxieties and don't get out much. Like, was that your first convention center or
Yeah,
convention?
first
Yeah.
convention, like first time leaving the country, because before that I was just, a recluse, right? I would just stick to myself, do my homework, go to school. I had a few friends, but like one or two of them, and that was it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. First time out of the country, I get drunk, miss my flight. Yeah, it's great.
That's great. Did you tell your
Yep.
parents about that? How'd that go? Like, be like, oh well, yeah,
Yeah, it happened, and they were like, well, okay, don't do it again.
you're safe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you were with people you trusted
Trust,
and
yeah,
people that knew you, and
yeah,
so it's not like anything bad happened.
yeah.
But I mean, yeah,
I had the only thing I regret for MechCons is like I couldn't just experience it. That's the only thing I like.
yeah, you were running around with like camera guy chasing
Headset,
you.
camera, like the entire time. I wonder how many steps I got those days. I don't know, man.
We tried waving at you, but we were just like, oh, we're in line, hey,
Yeah,
hey, Phil, and just camera goes off. We're like, okay, bye.
yeah, they'd be talking to my ear, like, oh, we gotta go here. Oh, yeah, I mean, and that's what's nice now. Is like, and I said this during stream. I was like, it's good to just be a fan now. Like, was it you or was it Nev? Who wasn't in stream? It was like 3 weeks ago. They're like, I feel like Phil's not telling the truth. Like I knew like some insider thing to like with PGI's dealings, and I looked at the camera. I was like, I don't know fucking shit. Like that's like everything I
Oh,
say is completely like speculation. It's like I'm disconnected. Like I didn't even know stuff. Me and Darren, we weren't a part of the Mechwarrior 5 development at all. Like we would find out stuff because we would have a like a Skype like phone call or whatever, and he would update us on hey what's going on. But like as far as development at all, we weren't connected at all. So it was like we were always in the dark until we showed up to either MechCon or we'd have a phone call. So it was just one of those things where, again, it's nice being just a fan now, like being and this I guess this sort of rolls into like we've talked a little bit about the past. I think we all know MWO's current, state or the lack thereof, and it's been like this for a while. I think it's important, and I need to state this, and I'd like your opinion on this. I stated this earlier today multiple times during stream. So Russ tweeted out, and this is in response to one of my tweets asking him for information. We've been wondering. I made a post on Reddit with the tweet and stuff, and he finally replied. And the source, I'll open it up here just to give you information. And this is on August 31st of 2020. He says, all I can say at this point is there are some really great internal conversations happening, some exciting possibilities, definitely more time to discuss. But we'll see some kind of news item in the next month. I think this is important to bring up. People are very optimistic or speculative or just outright dismissive about this. And if you feel that way, you feel that way. To put it in a little bit different context, what we do know is that leading up to the release of Mechwarrior 5 on numerous occasions, we asked Russ on the podcast and roadmaps and all that about the Microsoft extension. I think it got brought up every single time. Like, what's going on? And he says, we don't know. We'll let you know when we know more, right? It's in their core, basically. We know that was going on. the last communication and everything confirmed that, blah, blah. So as far as I know and dare know, when our contract was ended January 7th of 2020, it hadn't been extended yet. Fast forward, I think I'd have to pull up the tweet exactly, but Russ came into channel. I was streaming and a few questions were asked, and I eventually asked, well, people are wondering about the extension and the license. And he said, oh yeah, we got it for 5 years. So he confirmed that in our Twitch chat. And I think this is important because I think people fail to recognize the developmental process and the business decision. So if Bear Claw, let's put it in perspective. You're the CEO of a company, right? Of a gaming company, right?
Oh,
You're right. We're putting you're now Russ, right? So, right. You're the CEO. If you have the IP to the end of 2020, December 2020, you have the license to develop and distribute any games, so forth and so on. And you've been working on Mech 5, and Mech 5 may very well be the last title that you work on. And MWO really isn't seen and hasn't had any growth. Your last deployment of like Solaris wasn't really a big success. You know, blah, 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 blah. Does it make sense to you to basically focus on Mech 5 or MWO?
I would say it sort of like this. I would say, no, maybe leading up to the first DLC, we work really hard on Mech 5, and then we push out this DLC that makes the game better. But then, before we start working on DLC 2, we go back and we consider, hey, is there any low-hanging fruit? Is there anything really easy we could go and fix in about a month and release a massive patch that would kind of fix or address a few of these issues? Yeah. That would be my thinking.
Okay.
Again, that's a long time, right?
Yeah, and I don't think a month is long enough. And so this is where we're at. So that's what I think people need to realize is timeline. PGI had been working, the release of Mechwarrior 5 was in December of 2019. They had already extended 5 months or 6 months from their original, like, remember it was supposed to be September. And then previous to that, it was supposed to be like early, what was it, June? Yep. July? And somewhere around there. If you look at the time frame of when they started development, I just don't think it makes business sense. And this is why I bring this up. And this is my speculation and my opinion. Obviously we know they didn't have the extension when they released the game. We know they potentially didn't have the extension when our contracts were let go and other staff at PGI were let go, like Tina, and there's a few others, blah, 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 that shortly after. I think it was like a week or two after. I think what we've seen is Russ and company were making preparations to possibly this December being the end for them. So it made sense for them to push as much as they could into Mech 5 DLC. Obviously, COVID probably slowed things down. And coup de grace, hats off, they sail into the wind, and Mech 5's out there, and the license would go back to Microsoft, and it would sit there probably forever, right? But they got the extension. So now, with Russ saying what he did in the... what he said, all I can say at this point is there's some really great internal conversations happening, some exciting possibilities, definitely more time to discuss. We'll see some kind of news hopefully in the next month. This is what I'm dissecting from this. There's no reason for them to think about MWO, and this is why we haven't seen anything for the past 2 years, because their development of Mech 5, because they didn't know they were getting it. And now that they know it, they can go back and say, okay, what is the future plan? So my speculation would be that, and maybe, just maybe, I reached out to Russ after he sent this out and said, hey, I'd love to have you on a podcast to like broadcast this out there. And he'd said, I'll let you know. So just full disclosure there, because I think that would be great. Just like the DLC video I did with Chris, I'd rather the information be out there and you guys dissect it than it just never getting in the community. I think what we're going to see is Russ say, and it makes sense. I don't know, man. Speculation. What do you think? What do you think? What do you predict? Because my feelings are it doesn't make sense for them to touch Mechwarrior Online, because then you're working on 2 different engines, 2 different products, when you could potentially, just with a little bit more time and effort, maybe another year and a half, shift all of that over and make a DLC that's for Mech 5. So then everybody needs to buy Mech 5 to play maybe the online portion. Ooh.
Well, I would say it like this is I guess the first DLC comes out. Let's pretend it comes out in October when he's about to give a news item on
Sure. Before
MWO.
Cyberpunk. Yep.
Right. And I guess the biggest thing I would say is if I were Russ, I would send a probe. I'd be like, okay, what do you guys think about this? Or have a podcast and say, what should we do? Or have a proposition in line to present to the community. And if their reaction is good and if there's potential there, then maybe start, siphoning resources. Maybe not a huge amount, but enough to say, hey, there's low-hanging fruit. We can go and maybe switch the spawns on something or open something up or uncork something, maybe something of that nature. But again, I think it all starts with a proposition. It can't necessarily be, oh, hey, news item, something big is happening, because we don't know. Do they have the resources for it? Do they have the time for it?
Well, I think they do.
They have a lot.
They have 5 years.
But
right.
Again, you can't just like, oh, hey, 5 years, we can do whatever, right? You kind of have to probe and plan and
sure. But that's why
the lay of the land.
That's why I figure if they do something, it would be around Mech 5. So even if it's a multiplayer extension or anything, it can be season pass. It can be completely different from MWO2 or MWO as well, which I think wouldn't be a bad thing. And they could take things. They could have PvE options with those. They could do stuff like Living Legends had and blah blah blah. They could have those not MOBA-esque features, but like have us being the mechs, and then they could have those tanks, they could have the VTOLs, they could have those other things as well in certain fun game modes. But to me, what this means is if they've already built the foundation of Mech 5, and let's just say, I don't know how many engineers they have as far as programmers, but now that you've already constructed the base, maybe you can cut that down a third or maybe into a 2/3 and leave a small portion to continue development as far as game modes and maybe whatever tools need to be made. But now you've got 2/3 of your programmers. Maybe they've already started this because your programmers aren't involved in a story or pipeline or anything like that, or quest lines or any mech development or maps. I mean, those are already done. The pipeline is already created. You have individuals for that. Those engineers can just say, okay, if we're going to be doing this, we need either server-side authentication on somehow. If it's going to be PvP, we need some type of, okay, what's built into Unreal? I mean, for those that don't know or weren't here, MWO having server-side authentication wasn't built in CryEngine. They had to build that, and it took a lot of resources. And I'll go ahead and say this. It was the right call, and I'm so glad they did it, because if you play games, like I love Tarkov, I've been playing the shit out of it when I can, to watch all of a sudden a cheater just pop in, kill, it's, oh my God. And by the way, I know you play Tarkov, and we played that one time. I do enjoy that game.
We've played a few times, actually.
Yeah, it's good. I'd love to play more.
Yeah.
It's, do you think what would you want a MWO 2.0, or would you want something different?
Honestly, I wouldn't mind an MWO 2.0, but coming from a guy that's played the shit out of it, I mean, something new would be nice, but it also depends on, well, what's new, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything different, or is it just like a copy paste into Unreal Engine? And that's kind of the deal breaker for me, is like, I've played this game for how long, like years, and then this new one comes out.
Yeah.
Now what?
I think
it's like this one's established already, and
you don't want to do this. Yeah. And also too, I think the big thing is, whatever we're going to get, I'm calling it now, won't be the same as MWO marketing model. And people are like, oh, well, they should just do an MWO 2.0. No, the marketing model, like if they were to do mechs, now they can be very precise on which variants they bring out. If you don't do a free-to-play model where you have to like have 7 mechs for a mech pack, but now you've got like a season pass and everyone has access to those, but the difference is like cosmetics or maybe like your Mechwarrior cosmetics. Like I think people would pay good shit for that they could see their Mechwarrior standing and be in whatever custom garb. They could be wearing an outfit, whether it's a clan, with leathers and, no pants, whatever, things going on,
No pants.
those clanners and we like our leather. But I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, the marketing model for free-to-play games has changed. It's the season pass thing is now the go-to de facto thing. And I think if they play their cards right, think of game modes that really work. I mean, I don't know if Tarkov, that kind of game mode would work, but like a hardcore experience where you could go in and, because they have crates and they have the system. I mean, I don't know, man. You could have some really fun. You could have some really good team, like even respawns of faction play, that type of gameplay. Imagine if you had a Battlefield Rush system and, sort of like faction play, but a lot better, obviously.
Right.
But, like what's stopping? We already, and this is where Battletech nerds, you need to just tune out right for a second. You need to get past the whole, realism part. Realism can, in my opinion, fuck off. It's fun. It's what's fun. That needs to happen. Like what's fun? Like, like I was talking about the arm lock when you put PPCs in the arms for Omnimex. I don't give a shit that it was in the tabletop and ballistics don't have lower actuators. It's not fun. It's stupid. It should go away, right?
Yeah, there are some things that I can say about lore that have made it into the game that shouldn't be there, right? Yeah. It's an FPS. It's not like tabletop, right? And something I've noticed is, certain balance passes have trended towards the lore, and every time it's done that, it's gone south, right? And just the more they did that, and it's just like, okay, we're slowing the game down, taking certain game mechanics away, and all of a sudden,
this game is so slow.
Yeah, we're left with this slow turd on the floor just crawling away, and it
so
used
slow.
to be something, right? There were so many playstyles, right? You'd say Pete Goss, Brawling, SPL lights, Machine Gun lights, MPL lights. So much stuff to do, but
I'm gonna give an analogy that I think I wish I would have known back then, and I told my Mech Commander guys this last night. It's a World War II quote. You guys probably know it, and you can correct me out there if anybody knows. But a B-2 bomber lands, and it's fucking riddled with bullet holes. Riddled. There's parts just fucking, it's got holes in it. There's bullet holes everywhere. And a general's like, I need you to fix that problem. Fix where all those bullet holes are. And some smart dude says, no. You need to reinforce the parts that have no holes, because those planes got hit there and didn't return.
Right.
If you use that context of like, because I critique myself all the time. Like, I'm like, where did I screw up when it comes to quirks when I first started doing them? Like the Hunchback 4G. Did it have a problem? Was the hunch a problem? Like it's one of those where like I always was so like, and looking back in hindsight's 2020 and all that, blah, blah, blah. But like the idea is sometimes you think there's a problem, but the reality of it, all you're doing is you're actually reinforcing the problem. So the Peep Goss issue, the problem wasn't jump jets were overpowered. The problem was that there was no other playstyles to compete at the time. SRMs had hit detection issues. Lasers weren't strong. And Peep and Goss, we had the triple range brackets as well. But I guess my point being is, when playing Tarkov and other shooters, Apex and some of the Call of Duty, like the shooters, you quickly realize like you don't see someone like Proton's a fantastic player. You're a great player. You can't 1v4 and come out on top in Mechwarrior Online. Like it just not
bad.
Yeah. Well, you see what I'm saying? It's not like you watch Pestilli or Landmark or any of these guys playing Escape from Tarkov, and you're like, what the shit did I just see? This guy just pulled, like, the skill involved. But we don't have those weapon systems and that ability to, like, boom, boom, boom. Not like you don't necessarily have that if like you had a good player to that extent. And so you don't get those like, oh, crazy moments. And so in my opinion, MWO has a very low skill ceiling as far as like the ability to do damage to another mech. Yes, time to kill. I don't necessarily think it was the right thing to make time to kill longer. And again, it's one of those where like hindsight's 2020. You know, I've learned a lot looking past but I just, how do you make a future game more competitive? Like in that sense, because I mean, outside of, I saw someone today that said, well, what, I hate when the teams play the objective and then lose, you know, you don't earn as much. And I'm like, well, I think you're forgetting the objective is secondary. It's always been secondary. Like it's to force a fight, or on the weird occasion that something happens that you can end the mission because they overextended or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But it's to kill enemy mechs. How would you make MWO or MWO 2.0 more competitive, like as far as gameplay?
As far as gameplay, I'd start with the maps, honestly, because that's a big issue, right?
Yeah,
Like River City, Canyon Network, Hibernal, Terra Firma, uh,
all of them.
Tourmaline Desert is a pretty good one. Yeah, basically all of them, minus maybe Tourmaline Desert, because it's a large open area, right? And there's cover, but it's not, there's no central area to rotate
Yeah,
around. Well, maybe Stargate, but
Stargate.
like
Yeah,
the idea is like these maps are made to NASCAR on, right? And all that's happening is people are NASCARing on them. And I think the one thing that PPC Goss had for it and why I defended it so well or so wildly was because it stopped NASCAR. Like if you had a PPC Goss mech in a really good position to counter the potato lights that would run around the corner and try and shoot you in the back, I mean, those lights would die, right? You
yeah,
would see that time and time again. Some PPC guys waiting in the back for the rotation to happen, and just bang, bang, bang. 3 or 4 people get neutered or just die. And I think that's one thing that really hurts the game is NASCAR, right? Like these people want to do what the map is basically telling them to do,
telling them
run
to
in a
do.
circle.
Yeah,
And PPC Goss was basically the answer. No, you can't NASCAR. Don't NASCAR or you'll die.
yeah,
But when PPC Goss went away, there was no answer to NASCAR anymore. There was no anti NASCAR, right? It was just run in a circle and chew each other's tails off until you die.
yeah.
And
So you're saying
so,
map design and then probably game modes, map design. I like map design. I think is huge because like literally think of your worst caustic valley. You've got this central peak in the middle with no man's land, and then
just
like
run around it.
run like you have to because like the only way to shield yourself is on one side, right? And then what
Yeah.
else do we got? We've got, oh, look at Citadel, River City. You had the
Yep.
central figure, and literally it's the exact same. Look at HPG, central tower in the middle, and then you
Canyon
spoke of,
Network.
right, Canyon Network, and literally the map has the divots, and it's in a rotator, like it literally it's a vortex, like that's the map it's designed. Yeah, it's interesting because chat's saying if you lower TTK, um, I guess what I'm saying is I think it's a combination of allowing, like, if you were to do that, okay, so game modes and map design, 100% I agree. I think Rubelite, in my opinion, is still one of the best. But do you know? I feel like the problem was the maps were designed without, and I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's true, but I'm going to assume based on the map designs, they weren't designed by a game designer or map game designer who played the game at all,
Well,
except for Rubelite Oasis.
another thing is, like, think about Domination, right? That came in way later than most of these maps. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they just kind of grabbed the cap point and slapped it somewhere on the map and
Yes.
said, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
And
We
then they just kind of moved it around
yeah.
based on community
We
feedback.
don't have maps designed on game modes. We have game modes that are slapped onto maps.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. I feel like that's a failure on two part. Like there should be maps that don't have a certain game mode, or you make alterations, sort of like the original Forest Colony when we got Forest Colony Snow and it split the pass where the tower was, and
Right.
stuff like that. Or like even Forest Colony, even when we went to 12, a lot of people are like, oh, it's too small. I can see that, I can agree, but instead of creating this huge map that we don't use literally 90% of, I'd have just opened up a few areas to where like you could, like, it's sort of like Crimson Strait. Like
Yeah.
we know that left side just needs more like you need another pass, you need another tunnel, you need some way to maneuver, you need to block the visuals and sight lines of the island because it's too strong from, you know, like there's no way to count. Again, going back though, is I feel like that comes like basically what you're saying is you need the level of map design from like Overwatch or CS:GO, where it's you look at it from a competitive standpoint. If we have these like from a design standpoint and competitive standpoint, and I never think we got that. The only map that I would say is Rubelite Oasis, and I feel like because John actually played the game and he had a good understanding of map design and game design, but all the other maps, and I may be 100% right, and if I'm hurting someone's feelings, I'm sorry, but it's just the truth. Like, it is what it is. Would you? So okay, so maps, game modes, I feel are very lacking. Like,
Yeah, I think
but
the only one I would keep is Conquest. That'd be it.
I would
Because
change it
the
up.
other ones are just skirmish.
I would do it completely different. I'd say like let's fucking create like you have reinforcements and reinforcement. Like think of like Mech 4. What made Mech 4 or like even Living? Did you play Living Legends at all?
I played
Yeah.
Mech 4, Living Legends, and the thing about Living Legends, they did Conquest right?
Yes.
Because you look at MWO Conquest, and you look at that Conquest, and you're like, holy shit, it is
Yeah.
day and night,
Yeah.
and oh my god,
Yeah.
Living Legends had it going, right?
Yeah. And they had
So
2 bases, pretty much 3, like a central like repair hub in the middle. I always remember the Smoke Gyro Homeworld one where I had the repair base in the middle. No. Yeah, maybe.
yeah,
Anyways, it had
it's
a
usually
it's in the middle, and then
yeah,
underneath the pyramids they had spawn points, and the repair base was in the middle, but the spawn point. So if you held that, you could spawn in the forward location. But if you didn't, the one thing I didn't like about that was they had to balance because they did multi arms. They made like vehicles stupid OP and like power armor. I would get rid of that. I would just have just
tanks.
the mechs, yeah, and then have those vehicles be AI completely, like a MOBA, like yeah,
But the thing I liked about Living Legends was you couldn't just step on the tank, right? You couldn't just ignore the tank because that demolisher with double Gauss, very, very dangerous
yeah,
because they had stock mechs, right? And stock armor values. I remember there was one match I had. I was in a Fafnir with improved heavy Gauss, right? I'm walking along, and this Hellbringer comes out of the corner, and then I sneeze on him, and he just disappears. And
yeah.
yeah, so like stock loadouts, weapons that are in the game become really dangerous, right? And now you've got tanks running around with those same weapons.
It's funny
Now
because
it's like, oh shit.
you're talking about a game no customization at all, but the game modes were really good, so you didn't really care. Like,
Oh, I mean, like it was so well balanced, right? Like
yeah,
the enemy team had the same thing you had.
yeah,
You had the same thing the enemy team had.
yeah,
All that was different was how you used it.
yeah,
And that's what should matter. It shouldn't matter like, oh hey, this guy's got 5 MPLs, I've got 4, or he's got armor quirks, or he
yeah,
invested in this skill tree, or I invested in that skill tree, so I lose.
yeah,
It should be a matter of, hey, as an individual against that guy in the same chassis, do I perform as well, or do I suck? Do I
yeah,
have to get good? I mean,
yeah,
the thing is, like, all of those resources were there. It's just how you use them, right? If you had a bomber on one side that was really good at just nuking people in the back when they weren't looking, like on their pass, yeah, that was OP as fuck.
yeah.
But at the same time, if you had a tank that had anti-air and sneezed on somebody in the sky, well, hey, guess what? There goes your plane.
Yeah, it's funny enough. I used to fight against Flying Debris or Alex Iglesias, the artist at PGI, because he used to roll around in the servers in a VTOL, and the VTOLs were always buggy. And when they were like one click up, they would do the stutter, and you couldn't fucking
Oh
shoot
yeah,
them.
the Donner. I remember.
Yeah, and he would just sit up there right on the outskirts, and right when you looked away, he'd fucking shoot. God, I remember his
Yeah.
troll ass. He knows that too. I used to like, but we got into competitive scene in that game, and it was interesting because we started we did something no one had done before, and it threw everybody for a loop. We took out the Shadowcat that had the Peep Goss set up.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, just the Goss and ER mediums. But a lot of those
Prime.
maps, you could get up in the terrain And because I had ECM and like they had different radar systems,
Yep.
we would be like, all right, 3, 2, 1, and we'd pop up and just fucking alpha hit, go to reposition, and they wouldn't know. We'd be up in the hill. Oh my god, it was
Yeah.
awesome. Like it sucks because the YouTube channel that I used for that, it was called Wolves in Exile. That's how I met Darren. Was NGNG, but I changed the name and I deleted all the videos when I converted.
Oh,
I know, but I should have
damn.
just kept them. Yeah, but like and just yeah, but it was just one of those like really cool things. But yeah, no customization at all, and yet it it was really fun. And it's funny because people are like, oh, Living Legends so much better than MWO. I'm like, no, it's not. Like there are some game modes that are definitely quality, but the animations, the jankiness, there's a lot of things. And people are like, and I'm like, I fucking worked on Living Legends. Like, oh,
Yeah,
you
it
like the
was pretty
Stormcrow?
janky.
Who fucking did the Stormcrow? This guy, right fucking here. This guy. I did it. Yeah, that guy. Anyways, all right. Uh, I don't know, man. Like, what do you think about customization? I mean, if because they don't really have a whole lot in the stock Mech 5. Like, if they were to, do you think they need a Mech Lab like they do? Would you want more like something where, if you have the Hunchback 4G, yeah, what
I
about
would
Mech Lab?
say I would say it like this, and a lot of people might not agree with this, but Mech Lab, yeah, you can have a Mech Lab in single player, but multiplayer, I would toss it out. I would go the Living Legends route and just fix, the animations, the UI. I would just try and do what Living Legends did so well, and you know stack upon that, right? Like get better animators, get better looking maps, better looking textures, and that would be it. Like I would go that route. But in the competitive sense, it's just a game of like rock paper shotgun, right?
Yeah,
Who's got the shotgun and who's got the rock and the paper? And it's just, I don't know. It just seems really, really, really gimmicky,
yeah,
especially in this environment now. Like where MWO is now, it's just you ball up, you have a bunch of
yeah.
MPLs, and you run at somebody, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's the key to victory. Just
The speed, the
it's
game has changed
ridiculous.
so much, right? I mean, I think we were talking about. I mean, think back of open beta. We didn't have double heat sinks. We didn't have cool. I remember having a podcast with Brian Ekman and Russ at the time, and they had just introduced cool shots. And I remember, you can pull this up. I don't know which podcast it was. And I asked him, and I said, why are you introducing cool shot that's basically a free form of power when your heat system has been so good? It really put at the time, it really put an emphasis on not, and he was like, I don't know. And I think it had to do with IGP and the sort of the free to play market and coming up with ideas to have MC and then also C-bill syncs or whatever. But like, the speed of the game, think about that. I mean, like,
Well, cool shot increased the speed of the game, right? It
yeah,
made people die faster because you could alpha strike, cool shot, alpha strike,
Alpha Strike,
and then just run away.
yeah. Um, yeah, we talked about the weapon styles and stuff like that earlier, but yeah, there was a lot of things that Living Legends did well, and I think there's stuff that Mech 4 did well. I just feel like if they're gonna do, the cool thing is there's so many options for them. I'm just really curious of what direction they're gonna take. And right now, I feel like, and this is just my personal, and let me know how you feel about this. I'd rather just know. Like, I don't see them doing anything with MWO. If that's the case, and there is going to be a future online portion, you don't have to give me any details, but just say that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to be focusing on something that, we'll hope you, because I get it. NDAs, you don't want to like talk much about something that's not, I don't know, unless they've been on, I don't know. I'd rather just know, because like people come in my stream. I don't know about you, but they come in the stream and they're just like, hey, anything new? Like,
Yep, I get a fraction of that, so don't worry. In the same boat. Anything new? Oh, same
yeah,
old
like,
NASCAR, potato, MPLs, same story.
yeah. And yeah, All right, so we're gonna dive into some stuff here. So you had hit me up about doing a podcast, probably about a month ago. I think it's about a month ago.
Hmm.
You're like, hey man, let's do a podcast. Like let's talk about Twitch and growth and like I'm in a sort of a flux period as well. Um, and you were asking me questions about like, well, why don't we talk about this and why don't we talk about that? And I just feel like it's such an intriguing thing because you got into streaming 5 years ago. Why did you get into streaming?
I think it was just a fun way to pass the time because I had started, I think, the middle of my 11th grade summer vacation. I was bored. I was just like, man, I need something to do. So streaming was it. I had a computer, I had a microphone, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I try this? See what
Yeah.
happens. And yeah, I was like Alice falling down the rabbit hole. Just one thing led to another, and I ended up here.
So are you do you look at streaming um then okay, so then you were looking at streaming as just something to do, you were learning. Um do you view it right now as still a hobby or is it something that you see as a hobby but you'd like to potentially do this as like a full-time gig? Like what is your I guess objective, like what is your
Man, if I could do it, full time, yeah, like just sit here, play video games, and get paid for it. Sure, I think if anyone was a gamer, yeah, they'd say sure, sign me up. Where do I sign, right?
yeah,
But for me, it's like, okay, I can. At this point, I can't, right? Because I'm in college. I have to. I can't really devote a lot of time to this craft, right? I have to learn math. I have to learn science, right? I have to get my degree, and then I have to go and find a job.
gotcha.
So, I mean, for me, this is just a side gig. So, like, in my case, yeah, there are times when I'm like, maybe I should stream that a little more. Maybe, there are some more bits on the way, some more subs, a dono or two. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I see that money, but what does it cost, right? In terms of like my emotional content, right? Am I upset? Am I angry? Like, is this making it worse? Am I happy doing this? These are the questions that start popping up because, money's cool and all, but I mean, it's easy come, easy go, right? But
Gotcha.
you're left with all the emotional baggage,
Yeah.
right? So if like you have a bad experience and you carry that around with you, it resonates in everything else.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to. I'm kind of in this game of like weighing the odds, right? It's like, okay, how much of myself can I commit here? How much of myself can I commit here? So yeah, for me, it stays a hobby because if I dedicate to it, and someone comes in and tries to criticize it or get like under my skin about it, then I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do?
Yeah.
So the issue is like it's sort of a there's a quote in the movie called Heat. Like, have you seen this? Robert De Niro.
No.
Okay, so there's a quote. De Niro and Al Pacino are having a conversation over coffee, right? And De Niro's character tells Pacino's character, it's like there's one rule you have. It's like when you feel the heat coming around the corner, what are you gonna hang on to? And oh, I forget the quote, but there's don't don't hold on to anything you can't let go of within 30 seconds when you feel the heat coming around the corner.
Gotcha.
And so I've kind of had to adapt that mentality. Is that okay? It's a hobby, but hobbies come and go, right? So I've always made sure I've distanced things, certain aspects of me from this. And so, if one day I decide to delete the Twitch account and, drop off of Discord and stuff like that, I can do it within a snap of a finger and nothing will change.
Gotcha.
So that's me. I always tend to keep things like this because it can weigh you down sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, I tend to keep it at arm's distance because the money is good, but again, is it really worth all that trouble of being distressed, taking it out on other people in real life? Is it worth it? That's
Do you run into that a lot nowadays? As far as like
mm,
does anxiety or like confrontation or whatever because at one point in time, that was definitely something
Oh yeah,
that I noticed with you, at least, that I think
yeah.
we had a come to Jesus moment.
Well, it
You
wasn't
were
really a come to Jesus. It was more
No,
of like,
I was
hey, what are you doing?
disappointed. Yeah, because like we were trying to help you out. You were helping Paul with Solaris, because a lot of people again don't know that. Like you advised as far as where the tiers go. You weren't
Well,
asked how to design things,
you
but
know
you
what
were
really
asked.
set me off was there was a point in that where I found out the truth of things, right? Of like how Paul really worked and what the squirrels were really up to. And during that tier list, a lot of people don't know is that yeah, we tried. The
Yeah,
squirrels tried to contact Paul and say, "Hey, what is this? What is this tier system? What is this thing you're trying to put into the game?" And the only answer was Chris saying, "Paul's on vacation. This is what we're doing,
yeah,
and that's it."
yeah,
Like that was it. And
yeah,
you know that's frustrating because we can't have a discussion about it before it's in the game. It's already being
yeah.
planned and being fed into the machine. All we're doing is adding, a sticker on
Yeah.
it, and
But
it's
that's
like,
but that's not what the squirrels were for, and that's what a lot of people didn't understand. People that came in, the squirrels were literally there just there for QA for Paul's QA.
yeah,
So
it
many
just
people did not Siri. I think maybe even Heim might have been involved in the squirrels back in the day, like years ago. Jay Jaeger was always fine, but like they didn't it was their connectivity to the devs to then tell them how to do their job. And if you know anything about Paul, he's just going to tell you to fuck off. And he's a really nice guy. But it was just another layer of stress, if you will, for him that he just couldn't put up with. But yeah, yeah. You did good, man. You dude, imagine being me and Chris. Like me and Chris didn't know about it. Skill tree got dropped on me and Chris's lap the same way. Literally at MechCon, here's the skill tree, make it work as far as numbers. Like
yep,
it
it's
wasn't and you got to think of, and it's funny because I've talked to another developer there and he said, yeah, but that had been improved already 6 months prior. So that's what's even more frustrating is like we'd been working for years for him and it's not like, hey, Chris, hey, Phil, you guys come up with some, let us know if we're going to redo the skill tree. What do you think would be the best fit? Toss us your best ideas. And we didn't
well,
get any of that.
I think my question was that was never answered is why wasn't Q&A involved from the start, right? Like from the get-go, where was Q&A? We're like the stamp of approval at the end of the assembly line, and it sucks being that guy.
Yeah.
It really does because like
Yeah.
you see it coming, you can't say
Yep.
anything, and
Can't.
you know it's gonna be bad,
Dude,
and it's
dude,
just like
it was
shit.
so
What do I
bad. Like,
do?
we knew
Yeah.
when Solaris, because I was so excited about Solaris, and then this dropped,
Ugh.
and we were like, because you guys remember, I played it for a week and then I stopped playing it.
Yep.
And the,
Same deal here. That's
and
why I was like,
and
fuck
I
that.
didn't, yeah, and I didn't, luckily, again, PGI never really we never had Russ or we didn't have any Paul or Matt or no one like was over our shoulder like watching what we did, but it was like it became very apparent that Solaris was a complete failure. Like,
Well, yeah, first day out, right? It's like tier
oh
system, divisions, assaults, fighting lights. It was chaos. It was pure chaos. And everyone saw that.
yeah,
And I mean, it was just like, well, okay. I mean, I did what they asked, stamp of
yeah,
approval,
yeah.
send it out. It's going to be bad, but
I think that's what's
what
tough.
am I
Like
going
in
to do
that,
about it?
yeah, I think that's what's tough is like if you're asked from the outside, well, okay, this is what we're doing. Then the first question you have is, well, why are we doing it this way? Like, don't you see the issues here? And it's like, yeah, 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 but we don't. It's
Yeah,
already in the
exactly.
works. Like we just need you to help with this, so it's not as much of a shitstorm.
Yeah, and then you're like, well, at first I was like, okay, well, maybe it won't be so bad,
Yeah,
right?
no,
And then
it
I
was
started looking at the tier list, right? I started looking at the mechs going into the tiers, and we were having 1v1s of like
it's so
considering why is
much.
a piranha fighting a Kodiak, right? Well,
It's
why is an Arctic wolf fighting an annihilator? And there were just so many questions, and all we could do
yeah.
was put the mechs in the tier list
You know what?
and send the tier list to Chris.
The
That was
painful
it.
thing too is like that could have easily just been like if that would have been tossed out to the community from the beginning, like, hey guys, this is our things. Give us your best or worst. Like, same thing with skill tree. If they would have, and this is what's tough about development, I can understand sometimes you just, from a design perspective, you have to go with your gut or blah, 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 make command decisions. But I think as far as that's concerned, if they would have ever just said, because they've done it now recently with, which is funny enough, they did it with the PSR, right? They announced, hey, this is what we're doing PSR.
Have a process, right?
And of course, I think it's more of cultural thing too, of like, you could have just started with, hey, toss us your best ideas instead of, because really what you're doing is, I wouldn't say you're wasting money, but like when you have that passionate of a community, the first thing you should do before you say, hey, we're doing, this is what we're doing, is say, hey guys, we're going to be doing this, but we would like to hear your feedback first. And then we'll take some of that internal and then we'll pump something out. If they would have done that with skill tree, if they would have done that with, well, I should say, if they would have done that with anything.
Oh my God.
It would have been, but that's communication. And that's where I feel like, the hesitation, even when it comes to like MWO or the future of any game, I think they're going to have to work on an upward battle, because communication is so important. And if anybody, and I doubt anybody is actually, or Russ is going to listen to this, but like, that's one thing that like, I don't think Russ would disagree with what I just said, by the way. As a CEO, and I've talked to him and I know him, unfortunately, it's the process of like, who's like, if you task someone, if you have someone in charge of a project, that in charge of the project, even skill tree, like as soon as me and Chris, like, it was at MechCon, and it was like, why are we doing this? This is like,
yeah, just save feeling ahead.
And even if it's not that, even if you put something out there like skill tree and there was people that left, I would rather a company say this, you know what, guys? And I think I don't know if it's a cultural thing of just not saying, hey, this isn't going to fit. Let's go back to work on this. You guys aren't happy with this. We recognize 91 clicks is unacceptable. We recognize you have hundreds of mechs and that would be really ridiculous. We've recognized people are not happy about this. We're going to go back to the drawing board. Instead, though, digging in your heels, what's tough is, I know there will be some developers out there that would do it and they would come out on top and it would work. But in this case, it didn't. And I feel like, I feel sorry for you, because I know you were involved with that. And the reason I bring this up is the anxiety. And I know you then went in on Twitch and you were basically,
let's just say, I figured out how to punch through pack files really cool.
Yeah, you started modifying stuff. Yeah, and like your titles on Twitch were like, ban me, I don't give a shit. And what was so tough was like, me and Darren had like bent backwards to like try to like get you involved and stuff. And a lot of people, again, this isn't me and Darren like us praising us. What I'm saying is like, we would put out, because of how restrictive, and I can understand it. Like, if we said, hey, this is a good person, you can work with them, that meant a lot to us, because Paul didn't have the time, Russ didn't have the time to like, to deal with anything like drama wise. Right. And so like, here we have, Bear Claw, yeah, he's young, but he's got anyways. And then he fucking pissed off and PGI banned him. And then it was just like, oh my God, but it wasn't a permanent ban, but it was just like, I remember like I talked to you afterwards, but to me, it's just like, it's like me going back to the days when I was an NCO of like, when you have a Marine that like screws up, it was the same thing. It was like, you have a young kid, he's reacting because you've done all of your like, maybe in this case, you had vented, you had tried your best and still, this was still happening. I mean, what else can you do other than just fuck, Well,
it was like this for me when I was there with the Solaris thing, and like I realized, oh hey, this is how much they really care, and I was just like, you know what, isn't worth it. It's not worth trying to help them. It's not worth trying to sit here and dedicate, hey, I could be doing other things right now, right? I could be doing other things with my life, but no, I'm here trying to help you, and all you can do is this. And, that hit me so hard. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Just throw it all away. And I did. I threw it in
Yeah.
the trash
Yeah, I
and
know
I
you did.
lit it on fire
Yeah.
and I left it there for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
And, looking back at it now, it's like, yeah, I don't regret it. I don't regret what I
Yeah.
did.
Because
It was,
you learned.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
100%.
learned a very, very interesting thing about Paul and PGI. Not necessarily a negative thing, but put into perspective of like how important this really was to me, right? It wasn't necessarily like, Paul this, Paul that. No, it was just a matter of like, okay, now I know what it's really like. You know what? That's okay. Just keep that away from me because
Yeah.
that is awful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had I guess you could say a change of plans, right? I
Yeah.
I had started detaching myself from things, and I'd always this one I had got a little too close, right? You could tell because I keep things at arm's distance, and then when things get a little too close and they become attached, and you think it's one thing, and then you find out it's another, it's just like, dude, what was that?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
again, that was just
it's I
just it.
like you talked about like maybe why like yeah you could see doing this. I mean, you're in college right now. How much longer do you have with that?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I
What are
talked to
you?
the counselor. We've got a lot of work to do. It's
Gotcha.
a math and science degree, so I'll
Okay.
be here for a while.
Okay. The reason I was saying is like, if you, I definitely encourage people to like, chase things. And if streaming, like I said, I just felt like you were PMing me about like streaming and asking questions like, why don't you talk about this? And like streaming, I didn't know if that was like directed, like you were trying to give me like pushing me to create that kind of content because like you were wanting to be a part of that, or like you were seeking some of those questions, like uh like because you could make this to where you could pay your bills, and like you can, depending on what you're doing, or like you could make it something where it's a side gig, and you're building up slowly over the course of a few years and stuff like that, right? um I guess it really just comes down to like what you're wanting. And like I've seen the streamers come and go. MWO is a very unique streaming opportunity because it's exactly what you'd like for becoming a streamer and growing, because there's not a lot of competition. And I'll be the first one to say it, it is a competition for viewers.
Mhm.
And that isn't a bad thing. People need to recognize Twitch does nothing for you. And I guess to get into like sort of the topic of streaming and like content creation, Twitch is doing nothing for you for growth. You are responsible. No one's going to owe you anything. But Twitch, the ability to like grab a piece of that is so much easier to do depending on what game you play. And MWO is a perfect ground for that, because it's not like you're competing against people with thousands of viewers and the top 12 people have thousands or hundreds, and you can never break up into that because you're down there on the page and no one's ever going to find you. So MWO has always been a great option for people coming in to stream. Obviously, numbers have been down. I've noticed numbers have been down. Numbers have been going down steadily for
Yep, just a matter
past.
of time.
Yeah, and it's normal for a game attrition, but I would say the big change for me was when Mech 5 dropped. It literally was like, it was crazy because like we haven't seen all the streamers that we had before last year at MechCon. Think about this. In a
All
year's
branched
period of
off.
time, it it completely almost went away. Like it's crazy. Like every single person in that stream booth used to stream MWO last, like in 2019, 2018, 17, and stuff like that. And I know some people were critical, like, oh, why are they wasting the money? And I was like, dude, I think streamers are so important, especially streamers in such a small community that I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but whatever. So I don't know. I think MWO, but I feel like it's interesting because here I am branching out and trying other games, and I'm running into difficulties because I'm used to having a good audience, and then I go live, and I've 20, 30 people show up for a game, right?
Yeah.
Like that's an eye-opening experience, right?
Yeah,
So
especially for people that like are trying to make it a career, right?
yeah,
You go
yeah,
from 100 plus viewers to 0, right? In a
yeah,
matter of just clicking a button.
yeah,
Bang. So, I mean, in my case, I can kind of afford 0 bombs every now and then, but like to other streamers that are trying to make a career out of it, it's just like it's devastating, right?
yeah,
To go into a game, like that's why you see so many streamers just they find a niche, they grow in that niche, and they stay in that niche,
yeah.
and they don't move because as soon as they move, or if the niche dies out,
Yeah.
well, their channel goes with it.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I am right now, right? And I don't know about you. I mean, I know you've been playing other games, but as far as like I would venture to say my success and that's what sucks. I never wanted NGNG to be tied to PGI the way it was. And hindsight's 2020, if I could go back and with the knowledge I have right now, I would have done it more like how streamers do it now, which is okay, hey, because you didn't have sponsored streams back then. That's all new, like with the
Yeah.
FTC and all that, right? So like, but like I would have negotiated and said, okay, hey, from 12 to 6, we'll stream MWO. We'll work for you, blah blah blah. This is our rate. This is our hourly rate. This is our monthly, blah blah blah. We'll do that. But from anything outside of that, that's our own. I would have been multi-game from the start. That being said, we didn't know that, and you have to learn or whatever. But being tied to one IP, and if that IP isn't massive enough to like sustain you or grow you or whatever, yeah, it can. It's definitely an eye opener, right? So like,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, the best way I can say it is like uh, watching you, right, go from No Guts No Galaxy, MWO all the time to like Tiny Terrier to NGNG now, right, where it's just you.
yeah,
I you can kind of see is like okay, the roots are kind of drying up, right? The water's giving out, the soil's turning bad. It's
yeah,
when the plants get up and run away.
yeah,
So again, like in your case, it's just a matter of I know I keep saying like a lot. Somebody's gonna make a meme out of this, but in a sense, you're just gonna have to basically start from scratch, and it's tough. But the thing is, you're so well known here that wherever you go, I noticed that you pull like 30 plus, right? And that's something to I guess that's something to consider when you're running around. Is like, okay, how many people know I'm here?
yep,
How much of my community shows up? And I think the biggest challenge you've got to face is what's as similar as possible to MWO,
yeah.
like to fill that
Yeah,
that
what
niche
does your
with
audience
people in
want?
your channel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. Like it's funny because this sort of gets into YouTube as well and how important I think YouTube is for content creators on Twitch. But the cool thing is like posting up a video on YouTube, I can quickly see based on our community. I post up Hollow Knight playthrough I did. No one fucking watches it basically on
yeah,
YouTube. Even with the correct
'cause-
tags, because tags are huge, by the way. And if there's anybody out there, I can't stress, you need to learn. You just YouTube tags, video tags, channel tags. So important. Title names in your description. Like for instance, if you'll notice, like in all my videos of Mechwarrior Online Mech 5, it'll say Mech 5 mods and then a name, or a name and then Mechwarrior Online, such and such build and then Mechwarrior Online. And then in description, you follow that up, you reinforce it because the YouTube algorithm is looking for that information to share those videos. And if you don't have tags, and the reason why I say this, I didn't know about tags until about 3 years ago. So I'd been creating content for 8 years and always wondered why our videos were not getting the hits they should have. And in comparison, it's because it wasn't being shared. If you don't have tags on your videos, YouTube has no idea what to do with them.
Oh, and something else I should add is the level of familiarity somebody has with you, right? Like, how did I get to know Phil? Because of MWO, right? How did a lot of people get to know Phil? Yes, my shirt is dirty. I don't care. But anyway, how did how did MWO, like the community, react to you? They know you because of MWO,
Right.
right? And so when you disassociate with that familiarity they have, they just kind of they look for another one that's
Yeah.
doing what they want. It's kind of a cruel reality of like they're there to see the game, not necessarily you. But
Potentially, yes. Yes.
for some streamers, it's less about the game and more about them. Like
Yeah.
for example, Shroud, right? Shroud
Yes.
is God. Everyone knows. I can admit to it. But the thing is, he gets a ton of viewers anywhere
Yeah.
because he's good at FPS games.
Yeah.
Like
He's got a lot of viewers. I'm one of them. When he went to Mixer, I didn't watch him, unfortunately, and so now I'm glad he's back because I do catch him. And this is another thing that I'll say is like how important like building a community is, and like and I stress this to people that follow me is like, especially now, like 100% people are my sponsor. Like you guys support me. So if like you like what I do, I'm going to encourage you like, hey, follow, watch, be a viewer, lurk if you need to, uh, become a subscriber, drop it, blah, blah, blah. I don't force it down people's throats, whatever, and I have fun with it. And everybody's got their own shtick. But at the end of the day, you have to foster like, why does someone give a shit about you?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like what separates you? And I've had people question me like that have also been streamers just as long. I won't get in details, but I know I've ran into one that sort of got upset because like he was like, why don't I get as much support as like you and blah blah blah. And it's so hard and personal to answer that question. And I really hated going down that topic because it was like everybody's different.
Yeah.
Like I've got people that have been, like, yeah, I've got the military thing and there's some vets out there and stuff like that. But also too is like all I can do is just be myself. And if people latch onto that, awesome. And very rare is someone a character like Dr. Disrespect, or
Yeah,
there's been
I
others
was
as
gonna
well.
mention that.
Trainsy,
Like, mhm.
yeah, yeah. So
Again, that's just a facade, right? One day, Trainsy disappeared,
yeah,
right?
well, yeah, because he had a lot of anxiety and depression issues that he talked about,
Oh,
but it ultimately I would say, and I don't know if this applies to you, and if it does, and if you want to talk about it, cool. I would say probably 95%, if not more, streamers on Twitch have anxiety and depression, if not higher.
I I don't know about depression, but definitely anxiety,
Yeah,
right? Like, for the
100%.
first few days, uh, I guess streaming, I wouldn't show my face, right? First few months go by, no face, because like,
Yeah, I remember before you had a webcam.
yeah, yeah, you remember. And then one day,
Yeah,
showed up
I
on
was
the
like,
webcam,
hey, who
and
the
they're
fuck
like,
is
"Oh my
this?
gosh, he's brown."
Yeah, yeah,
It was kind of funny, but like, yeah, people heard my voice and they put a face to a voice, but they didn't know the face yet. And then they saw my face and they're like, "Oh my god!" Everyone threw a shit fit, but it was kind of funny.
yeah,
But yeah, again, like it's it's what you build your community on that they kind of stick to. Like your foundation is basically it, it's gonna tell how far you're gonna get,
yeah,
right? So if
100%.
you're a niche streamer, you're gonna end up in a niche, growing in a niche, and I mean it kind of perpetuates.
Yeah, but that
Unless, of
niche could be
course,
big. And again,
yeah,
like
that
I
niche
can't
could be
complain.
big.
Like, yeah, if I would have taken over NGNG, let's just say years ago, like I said, I took over in basically March. I took over the channel, and um, I had my goals, and so like I just let people know my goals, like, hey, this is my full time thing. If you'd like to support all that, but like I feel like niche isn't a bad thing. That's why like talking about this, getting YouTube content out there so people can bring in people, like that content can bring in people from YouTube. Like I've had multiple times people pop in and be like, hey, I've been watching for years on YouTube. This is my first time. Hey, and they'll drop a Prime sub or they'll
Oh,
drop a tier 1 sub. And so that's a sub or a new follower and a viewer that you wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for that YouTube content. And
a
that,
prime example is the beef, right?
yeah,
He streamed up. I mean, he didn't stream, but he made YouTube videos, made people laugh, made
yep,
funny things for years, and then all of a sudden he pops up on Twitch, and he's partnered within a month,
yep.
and it's like, oh, okay. Cool.
Yep.
He just came
Beef,
out of nowhere.
yeah, Beef is one of those because he had an edge, and I know he's still active. It's funny because he's popped into the Tarkov streams when I does it, and I think he wants to drop. Yeah, he's been really cool, and I don't know him on a personal levels too, so that's one thing. But he did editing for a YouTuber. I don't know if he still does it, but that's what he did. So he already had the editing skills, and so I wish I had a drop of that type of talent. Like I wish I had a, if I can get to a point, like, I don't know how much editors like I would love to get an editor just because I do stream a lot and is content out there. And that's one thing you either have to do yourself. And that's basically what I've done. 99.99999 of the videos out of the 1,200 plus videos I have on YouTube are me. That wasn't Darren. Like, I did that. So it was like, but yeah, it was one of those things where seeing Beef come out, Bear Duel's another streamer that we can definitely highlight. I would, yeah, he has a schedule that he releases a BattleTech and MWO video every single day. He's got a backlog, so he's already a week ahead of time. He's super casual, super friendly. He's non-toxic. He's your everyman as far as like a player, and he's had success. This is what he does for full time. So like anybody I remember, do you guys remember this when I went, I got triggered on stream one day because someone came in and wanted to bash him, and I fucking flipped out and told that person he was a fucking loser. Because I was like, how dare you? You know, like, how dare you come in here and you're basically making fun of someone that's seen success and you've done nothing to add to this community, or you've done literally nothing. You're just going to try to tear down someone. I was like, no, fuck you. Like, I'm going to call you out who you are. You're a loser. And, like that's what it is. Like, and you, anyway, it triggers me. Like, someone comes in and like, oh yeah, I don't like it. It's like, what the fuck have you done? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's
like,
a warranted response.
And that isn't me being like, oh, look at me, look at how great I am. No, it's like, have you put yourself out there to create someone to be like, no, you fucking haven't. That's why I respect any streamer, because the anxiety of like getting out there. Maybe you do struggle with anxiety. Maybe you do struggle with depression and stuff like that. Right. And you're still doing that. Like, I know multitudes of streamers that started in MWO that didn't have webcams that now do and are streaming, and it was an outlet for them. And I'll tell anybody to screw off about that, because, like, again, that's a big step for them. And if anything, like I said, they're putting out content. So, it's so easy to criticize. That's, yeah.
That's the worst thing about criticism.
Oh,
it's so easy to do.
It's so easy to do.
You can get addicted to it. You can just keep going.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that people don't realize. I'm the biggest critic of my own content, but not in a negative way. And
we're all our own worst critic.
But I used to not be. I used to be. I remember how I said early on, back 5, 6, 7, I used to get in arguments, or I used to try to defend something, or I used to read freaking YouTube contents and like someone would say something and I'd be like, oh, but blah, 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 like, or Reddit. I used to try to, but what I realized was I wasn't there for that. I was there for, because anybody would be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, well, the the thousands of views I'm getting on that video show otherwise that the people do care about the content. So fuck you. That's what's going in my head, right? That's I don't give a shit about your opinion because it's shit. Just, like, it doesn't matter. So what I did is I just sort of took that and turned it off. And Darren had to realize, like, God, he would go down the rabbit hole, dude. So we did that podcast with him about life, boats, and all that. And we talked about how, like, disconnecting from social media and stuff. Yeah. If anybody goes to that YouTube video, there's a one dude that basically is like, COVID's, I don't think he says it's a conspiracy, but he's like, he basically says something, and Darren has like a conversation, like a fucking novel with the dude, back and forth. And then I was like, so,
how's it going?
How's it going? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, you just did exactly what I told you. Like, you say you don't need to do. Why are you engaging with that type of like toxicity? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. That's a reason. It's one of the main reasons I deleted all of my previous videos and, deleted my Reddit account, because it was all connected to that cesspool we call, forums. And it's just, unfortunately, it's gross. Like, if you get involved with that and someone doesn't like you, they're gonna flame you, and then they're gonna get all their friends to flame you,
Yeah.
and it's this nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
But
had to
see,
let go of that.
I think those are strategies you just have to learn. Like, and like, if there's anything I pass it on to you, I said this. The reason I bring up anxiety and depression, and we've seen a few people in our community, even recently, struggle with this. And I don't create. I'm going to tell you this, chat, and everybody out there, if you're listening on YouTube, and I'm tell you this, Bear Claw, I don't create content for you at all. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I do it for me, and it just so happens that some of you guys like the content. Like, why did I do the DLC video with Chris? Because I wanted the information, which if I don't have the information, and being how close I was, that means a lot of people don't have the information. So
Right.
I'm selfishly doing it for me. And the reason I say that is, you as a content creator, you can't. Someone on Twitter asked recently, it was one of the MWO streamers asked, like, how do you get past that anxiety? I don't have anxiety because I don't even let that factor in. I just don't care. I can't care. You can't care about what anybody will think or say. We have a saying in the Marine Corps, ducks and rhinos, right? You have to have a thick skin like a rhino, and water, like, just let stuff slide off you like water off a duck. Ducks and rhinos, bros. Like, that's all you have to do. Just who gives a crap? No, ducks, man. They're waterproof. Just watch. Just this is a life lesson, Bear. I'm teaching you. He's like, I don't get it, Phil, but whatever. You have to. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where, again, it'll be interesting watching you, like, what you decide, like, if you decided this, because I honestly, I think you have, especially you've grown, I think you're entertaining to watch. You have a good personality for it. You don't mind having a webcam is the right way to go, in my opinion. You're not the exception. Like, people are like, oh, well, such and such doesn't have a webcam. I'm like, yeah, but he's got like 1 million viewers on YouTube. Do you? No. So don't fucking, that's not you. But yeah, you need to start.
It's interesting. Well,
I've told Logan this. Get the fucking YouTube going. I've told him so many times. Get the YouTube going. Get it going.
Made a few videos. Kind
Get
of
it
funny you
going.
mentioned that.
Look at a niche. Okay, so this is what I've done, and like I said, I've been one of the biggest critiques, and I'm gonna give you some knowledge. I have always looked at, if you look past at the videos, my overlays. Can I improve those? I do more of a minimalism thing now. Video, lighting, audio. Audio is one of the biggest things before video. So audio, how do you sound? Does it sound good? Clear? Blah, blah, blah. Content, format. If you notice with my videos now, when I have even an MWO or Mech 5 or Mech Commander, I saw someone do this where they do a pre-vid. So it's a part of the video you're showing, but it's like let's just say you have an awesome fucking shot. And so that's what you put the first 5 seconds, and then it rolls into your intro video, and then it rolls into your normal content. I saw someone do that. I didn't make that shit up. I saw that and how that attracted me, and I was like, oh, I like that. So for me, it's one of those where if anybody's listening, or if you, like, be critical of yourself and always look at, like, can I improve things? And the answer sometimes is no, or like, and it isn't always like searching for something that's not there, but just like, I'm always in the constant learning. I'm always, like, I don't know everything as a streamer. I don't know everything as a YouTuber. Like, I especially don't know anything like hardly at all as far as editing videos. But like, I picked up on that, and people literally commented and said, hey, I really actually like that. So then that reaffirms, like, yeah, that's cool. Like, engagement with your audience. I mean, you have a shtick with being competitive. I don't have. I never played competitive, right? So you've got, you're in with the competitive scene stuff. Like, so if you see content that's not being made, or you think you can do it better, do it. Like, if there's an MWO video or whatever, and this is what I constantly saw, I didn't see anybody else doing those. Bear Duel saw the same thing. He saw a niche, and he just kept doing it, and he rolled it in. And like, that's the thing, is like, so many people are like, oh, well, what do I need to do? You may not need to do much. I mean, if that dude out there, if I can do it, You can do it. I don't do anything special. Like, really, I don't. Like,
Yeah, very funny things you said was like start that thing, and it's kind of funny that these wheels are already turning. Like I've got editing software, and actually I'm not gonna tell you who, but someone has asked me to do some stuff. It's gotten really interesting, but again, it's all free for now because
yeah,
I'm not very good at it. But
yeah,
when I get better, as you get experience, it's like okay, now you can build a resume. Now you have a portfolio. Now you can go and approach somebody.
yep,
Hey, this is what I've done. Talk to me about it, or
yeah.
don't. So
And
yeah, those wheels are turning.
and if you find a niche in something, like again, and you can be creative and you post up on YouTube and then that grows. I mean, I don't know, man. It's one of those where like, I appreciate you like reaching out to do a podcast about, this stuff because, one, I've never had a like in-depth long conversation with you about it, but also just the things I've seen in the community and the people that came have gone or the people that are still here. And it'll be interesting to see what Russ has to say and if anybody returns or what the future is. And I hope there's a future because, obviously, I'm a very invested fan. So it's like win-win if something happens, which I suspect it will. Right. So,
I'm kind of
so
in the same boat. It's like I'm a fan. I want this franchise to succeed, and if it doesn't, then shit, I gotta go find something else to do.
yeah. Yeah. Is Darren gone from MWO and NGNG TV? Yes, he is. He's enjoying life. We have a podcast on with him if you're interested out there, and that is podcast 202. So he's doing well. We wish him the best captain. Hopefully, well, he is technically a captain. Cats now. I mean, don't let
I
it go
get
to
him
your head.
an eye patch and some pirate boots.
I was telling him he needs to dress up like the shark dude on Jaws, like the captain, and the
Oh,
hat and stuff, and get like a
get him a
salty,
parrot.
yeah, or salty, crusty looking jacket, and yeah. So, um, have you not learned? Hey, pseudo, I can be optimistic, man. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the I look at life and things. It's so funny because I'm very much a realist because of my military background when it comes to certain things, but I also feel like you have to be an optimist because if you're not, that's just a very negative world and I don't want to live in it. So,
I think the idea behind that is like, okay, you experienced something really bad, right? Say, like for your example, you went to the Marine Corps. You experienced war firsthand, right? You were there on the ground. Some of those people that you went with didn't come back the same, right? And it's less so how you criticize something, and it's more so how you how you handled your situation and what you can give back, right?
yeah.
It's not necessarily about getting help; it's about helping others.
Yeah.
Because when you help others, you're helping yourself. You may not know it and you may
Yeah.
not feel it, but
It's addictive.
down the road, you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, this feels pretty good. I'm giving back. I'm
Yep.
doing something productive. I feel like I matter,
Yeah.
and I'm a significant part of somebody's life,
Yeah.
be it anybody's life. And I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest takeaway is just you kind of have to use those negative experiences and ideas as fuel.
Yeah.
And sometimes the fuel doesn't come out the right way, or it doesn't happen right away, but slowly but surely, like if you keep trying, if you keep
Yeah.
trying to put yourself out there in a good manner and trying to help people, it pays dividends because I mean you're not in that constant state of oh man, this world sucks or this place sucks or the situation sucks. It's just more so like what can I do with this and who can I help with my
Yeah.
experience.
Well, I mean, and that's the path I choose. Like I've always sort of said, I wanted to be I always wanted to be a place where you could come and like ask questions and not be like ostracized or like, what's funny too is like being as much as I've learned in our status in the streaming, I've had very few, like I would probably say less than 3 people actually reach out and ask for stream advice throughout 8 years, which has been crazy because like, like I've learned so much and I have no problem with passing it. Like perfect example. Ruff, he streams StarCraft 2, which that dude's
I
a
still
wizard.
watch him.
Jesus,
Great.
like it is. I don't. My brain. Anyways, but he streams MWO and BattleTech, and I noticed because I was like, oh, let me check out his YouTube, and I went and I noticed his views were really low comparatively to where they should have been. And I have vidIQ in as far as a Chrome extension, and so it'll tell you a lot of information. I noticed he didn't have video tags, channel tags, his titles, stuff like that. And so I reached out and I just said, hey, dude, like, if you want this advice, like, I'd love to sit down and talk to you because I just noticed a few things. I was luckily I didn't overload him, but he was asking questions, the right questions, and I just kept like, this is what I've done, and this is what I do, and like, like thumbnails and titles and this and that, and like, blah blah blah, and this is the length of, like I was, because like a part of me is like, I've experienced all this, like I just want to pass it on, but it's been so rare that anybody was just like, hey man, like, and again, that's not me propping, because like NG is small. Like we're not the big, like Bear Duel. I made a failure and I recognize this. I stopped creating daily content on NG TV. It was because I thought I could spend more time on Twitch, which would be better, but I didn't realize the correlation between the two. Like you want both. And,
right.
So the niche that we had, he took over. Like the just everyday videos and stuff like that. He just took over. Anyways, not a problem, Pseudo. Starting to get a lot of questions in chat. Well, we got stuff in chat, so it's always tough because like I like interacting, but I'm hanging out with you. But yeah, man, it's one of those things where, I think if you want to, well, it looks like you've sort of got to figure, like you don't want to make it serious. You want to focus on school, at least for the time period. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's one of those where like, I definitely think you can improve even if you're doing it. No, like even if you're not going to do this full, like you don't want this to be your full-time job or career. I do think there's things like getting the YouTube going. You've already got a Discord going. You've already got a community going. You like make small goals of getting content people want, or editing, blah blah blah. Like building a small like brand, if you will, or whatever. And I know you got your mouse pad, and it's
this thing.
It's huge.
It smells
like rubber.
It smells like no. It smells like
vinegar.
Chocolate.
Oh really?
Dark chocolate smells like.
Yeah,
but it's like an artificial.
Oh yeah.
Like I know it's burnt neoprene, but
it's
still like just
yeah.
The aromas. It's pretty nice. I like it.
Yeah. So
like a scratch and sniff kind of thing.
Yeah. The new Stream Elements mouse pads are 36 by 18. They're freaking ridiculous.
Wait, hold on. I think I can show you. Hold on a second.
Yeah,
let me know if you can see this. Okay,
God.
So yeah, there's the mouse pad. It's massive. Look at my desk.
That is huge.
It's great.
Holy, it goes all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's the
huge.
weird thing.
Hey, nice mouse.
So this section, this section of my desk is 3 feet long, and it goes from end to end. It's ridiculous.
That is huge. That's awesome. Yeah, the new ones, I need to order one. Yeah. So, is there any games coming out that you're like, yeah, that could probably disappear for a while into that?
Oh man, there are so many games. I just, like me right now, I'm stuck in the Elder Scrolls. Oh my God, just been streaming that game on and off, and it's so much fun. Yeah. Because like there's nostalgia there. Like I've never played Morrowind, so this is a new experience. Yeah. Like I'm all about new experiences, but the games that are more recent that I think I'll enjoy are probably, I think everybody said it, Cyberpunk, and I think what else?
You see that new MMO, New World coming out?
Yeah, I've seen it, but
you're not interested in MMO, maybe just an RPG, sort of like Skyrim.
Yeah, like
RPGs are more Cyberpunk. Yeah, Cyberpunk. Witcher 3.
Yeah, I've actually bought that game, and when I started playing it, I got maybe 20 hours in. I was just like, shit, this is like a novel who
Oh
had to
yes.
spend months.
Oh
And
yes.
I was just like, you know what? Maybe I climb this mountain another day.
Yeah, it's so big. Like I was thinking, I started streaming. It was when I was doing my other channel, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not even through the tutorial." I'm like, "Oh my god,
Yep, it's
I
just
don't, I don't think I."
it's the best way to describe it is it's so rich in content, right? Like CD Projekt Red poured their heart and soul into that thing, and you could tell.
Yeah,
You could tell because, oh my gosh, like from beginning to end, that game is just full of surprises. Like
yeah,
there's not a dull moment,
yeah.
well, unless you're like doing side quests. But
I
again,
do
the main
side quests.
story is just, oh,
I'm a side quest whore. Like that's
I'm
like
the opposite.
I can't even help. Like I don't want just the storyline. I got to do everything. Like if I'm playing like an one of those like JRPGs or whatever, like I'm searching around and
Yep,
every nook
just
and like,
everything.
and that's it's a problem because like it just means that it's not a problem, but it's a problem like if I'm gonna go stream a game and like I said, like Witcher was a good example. Like it was just if you're trying to grow your channel and you've got only a handful of people show up because your audience really isn't involved. Plus, it's a game that's already been out forever. It's played, but it's actually been surprising. Some games like you'll show up and like Tarkov of one's been pretty responsive. Warframe, the amount of people that have been enjoying like just like, oh, it's a new player. This is awesome. We get to sort
Yeah,
of
it's a
like
new
look
guy.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a new guy. We get to see you learn what we did like, you know,
all those
years
people that
ago.
come in to try and help you, right?
Oh my god,
It's
it's
amazing.
great, right? I think Cyberpunk. It's got me intrigued. I do have Squadrons coming out. I just picked up. So I got a review key, which by the way, that's another thing. Is like as a streamer, content creator, like if reaching out to some of the PR companies and like you just sign up and then they like verify like, oh, you're a Twitch
Oh yeah,
streamer and blah blah blah. But like I've started doing that, and I got there's a review kit I got for it's called like Star Renegades. I showed it off earlier, but it's like an RPG roguelike, you know, blah blah blah. But it just it's that like pixel art and it just looks so amazing. And I'm just like I could probably deep dive into that. But that's the thin line. That's the hardest struggle I'm I guess is I did an experiment last month whereas I didn't have MWO as my focus and I was branching out and I was doing those things. And what I was looking at was viewership, engagement, and of course the monetization aspect. Like, because this is my full time thing. So can you
right,
know like
right.
can I pay my bills at the end of the month? That's my main thing. And so I had a big hit to that. My viewership was way down. Engagement was down, of course, because there's not as many viewers, and monetization was down. So it's like one of those where it's this for me. It's this balance of providing content that my viewership obviously already wants with MWO, Mech Commander. Obviously, I'm not playing Mech 5. I
Oh,
have no interest in that at all.
I'm still waiting for another Mech Commander Gold playthrough. That's
Uh,
what I'm excited for.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
You should do it. You should do it. Come on, Bill.
Well, I'm hoping we can get. We're we're really getting to the point. I hope that with mission generation, that it's going to start feeling like an actual Mech Commander game and more depth. Um, that's why uh, that's why you know like right now it's just basically Mech 5 like we got
Right.
that but like we've introduced the reinforcement stuff. That's a mechanic that Mech 5 doesn't have, so we've done that. But like that's a whole nother discussion for me and Tori to have during a podcast. I think we're going to try maybe this week or next week or whatever. But like but right now Mech Commander, we want there we this to get rid of the repetitiveness of the missions. It has to be there. And then to expand that, like, what does that mean? So, yeah, more work to do. Tori's in chat. He's like, ah,
I'm seeing him.
yeah,
Uh
yeah.
oh.
So, um, yeah. So it's one of those things where like I have to juggle, and that's why like I'm optimistic about you know the release. It'll be interesting. We still don't know when PGI is releasing the DLC, but it's already September. I would probably wager before November and especially before Cyberpunk because they're going live as far as we know unless the deadlines changed. As far as like Chris and Alex were saying, they're going live on Steam in December. It makes sense for them to have the DLC come out before the Steam launch, so that's solid. The game gets all those updates. You get career mode if you want it. You can play through the, you know, blah 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 blah. Also, you know, they've done the integration with Epic and the mod, thing. So that's a thing. So I'm assuming anything we hear about any type of MWO or future online thing, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do. Hey, there's going to be an update to MWO, and it's going to be sort of like World of Tanks did, where they did the complete engine update, and they kept everything you already had, but then they changed the marketing model or something like that. Maybe they do that too. We don't know. So I don't know. Maybe they're like, hey, we have enough mechs in the game. Like, how about we focus on the core stuff? I don't fucking know. I don't like. A part of me does. I hate talking about it because like I don't want to be disappointed. But then another part of me is like,
you're curious. Cool.
I'm curious, and that's what the cool thing about a podcast and like being a streamer is. Like we can
ask those questions. We can speculate. Like, we can have conversations about it.
Yeah. But like I hope to I hope Russ is like, hey, let's do a podcast. And the cool thing, like I said, is it's my podcast. Like he knows coming into that. It's not like you're, but also too, is like, I think people need to understand, like, you have to have a professional relationship. If you're just a dick to someone, no one's going to be like,
yeah.
So like, don't expect me to be like, so Russ, with the failure of Solaris, it's like, you could just be like, hey, no, yeah, but you could be like, hey, whatever, like, hey, Solaris wasn't, like, so how you worded, be like, hey, Solaris wasn't as big of a hit, is there things that you think you could have improved upon? I just asked that, the same premise, but I did it not being a dick. And some people think you can get away with being a dick. Good luck. Let's see how that worked out for you. Like,
well, nobody likes a smartass. But I mean, that holds true. Even IRL, some of my family members, I just pay them no mind because they're just assholes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've kept you here long enough. Bearclaw, it's been a pleasure. Jeez.
How long was it?
2.5 hours. Yeah, we've been going.
Been here for a while.
Obviously, if people don't know, let's go and get a shout out in chat for Bearclaw, and they can find you also on Twitter. But what is your schedule like for streaming?
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's basically it. I'll stream when I stream, and that's about it. That's all I can promise because, man, everything is up in upheaval.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, like, I'm kind of just where the wind takes me. But
gotcha. Elder Scrolls on your horse.
Yeah. Oh yes, running around, drinking skooma, flying through the air. Yeah, it's great. It's fun.
Yeah.
No experience, so I'll be there for a while.
Yeah, man. Like I said, we'll have to definitely do this again, and I'll be sitting down. I'm talking to, I think someone has an announcement. I don't want to spoil anything. Anyways, there might be another podcast in the near future, and it'll be interesting to see if it has to do with MWO. Oh, can't really discuss that one because I don't think that's my place to say. It's just a play. It's not like an official thing, but someone else podcast soon. And then I'm going to be sitting down with Tori about a Mechwarrior podcast as well. And I think there was one other, probably forgetting someone soon. But yeah, man, I appreciate you being on here. And of course, thank you, chat and YouTube. By the way, if you guys want to help support the channel, consider becoming a sub here on Twitch, or a sub if you haven't done so on YouTube. Make sure to click that button, or, something bad is going to happen to, I don't know, some furry,
somebody
cute
will knock on your door.
I don't know. But of course, this podcast is supported by you, the viewers. Consider becoming a follower, subscribe, become one of our patrons. Or I keep saying become one of our patrons. I say us and our and we all the time when it's really just I, me.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing. Like, I do that all the time. And people are like, who are you?
Who's the other one?
Is Darren? Okay. So, and of course, I do have a wish list if you guys want to check that out. All this is down below. If you're going to purchase Mech 5 and you're interested in it, I've got a Epic Game referral code. It'll be in the link, all that down below. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Bearclaw.
Yep.
Welcome. Hope you have a good night, and
sweet dreams.
all that fun stuff. And of course, this was your local No Guts, No Galaxy podcast. Signing off for tonight. This is Phil. Until next time. Good night, guys. Bye.